2 days after Thanksgiving, it is time for even more football, and for these two teams here today, this game is probably even bigger. Welcome, everyone, to the second round of the 2025 NCAA Division III football tournament at Seagull Stadium in Salisbury, Maryland. The Gulls of Endicott College make the road trip down to the Eastern Shore to take on the Seagulls of Salisbury University, and we've got all the action for you right here on ESPN+. Top of the hour, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeremy Carr alongside my friend and partner Mike Greco. Mike, these two teams, we've been reading about them all week. Endicott and Salisbury getting ready to take the field the second round of the NCAA tournament. You see our keys to the game for each side there. This should be a really exciting game, and both of these teams hoping that this is the start of an exhilarating tournament run.
100%, Jeremy. And when you look at these two teams, they're really as equal as you can hope for out of both of these teams' first game in the playoff. And you see the keys to the game right there for Endicott. Really, they are an extremely multi-dimensional offense. You look at the RPO, they're one of the best offenses in the entire country, and a lot of that is because of their offensive line. For Salisbury, you have to be able to handle that RPO, and most importantly, hold on to the ball. You can't allow Endicott to make the best of any self-enforced errors. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, for the Gulls of Endicott, you have to establish the run early. You have to lean on the backs of your offensive line, where every single starter is a Conference of New England first or second teamer. That is 100% your strength here for the Gulls. They have to rely on that here to get this early momentum.
Salisbury captains won the toss they elected to receive, so Endicott will kick off to start. Mason Fisher and Dario Belizaire back deep to receive. Second round underway. Going to be fielded by Belizaire at the 5. Gets a running start to the 15, to the 20, to the 25, to the 30. Belizaire out to the 35. A good start for the home team. The Seagulls in their home maroon, the Endicott Gulls in their visiting white. And now we'll see the Seagull offense for the first time, headlined by the face of the Seagull football program, the signal color, Cyrus McGowan.
And really, what a story that Cyrus McGowan has been for this maroon and gold offense. Ever since coming in as a freshman last year, of course, in relief of the injury of Gage Castle Hall, the usual starting quarterback for Salisbury last year, he's really just taken over the head of the Salisbury offense, so much so that they have really made him their #1 all throughout the rest of this way, and of course they still got the rest of his college career here.
They'll start it off with a handoff to Daryl Walter. Walter has been the primary superback for Salisbury all year, coming on after being a backup last year to a number of players, primarily Ronald Clark. You see Daryl Walter's stats so far this season. He ended the season on a high note against Vermont State Castle.
And again, Salisbury is also having the benefit of a very talented offensive line. This run game that Salisbury likes to throw out there with their option plays, it really relies on the gaps opening up with the offensive line. Walter especially credited his offensive line earlier on in the year in their very first home win.
This time they'll option it to Belizaire off left tackle. Belizaire trying to make a move, but he's wrapped up at the 40 and brought down by Mason Backley.
And that's a great job by Endicott. When you're going against an option offense like Salisbury has, you have that pitch at the very start of that play. In that case, you have to be able to rally to the ball. That's something that is kind of the identity of this Endicott defense is, man, can they fly to the ball. They're always going to rally to the ball carrier, no matter where they are on the field, and really try and make that ball carrier feel their presence.
Endicott in the second round for the second consecutive year. Got their first tournament win last year. They've been in the playoffs a number of years now, and this time they'll go the other side. Fisher towards the right, tries to jump over a man, but Joe Terrell is having none of that. Number 0 for this Endicott defense, making a play for the first time.
And you don't just earn that number 0 for no reason for this Endicott side. That's something that they take pride in, is they want their quarterback of the defense, in most cases, wearing that number 0. That is like the captaincy of captaincies for this Endicott Gulls team. And of course, Joe Terrell, you see him right there. He's, of course, going to be the player on this Endicott defense to keep an eye out as they try to limit Salisbury's offensive production.
So a 3 and out to start for the Seagull offense. Head coach Paul McGonigal of Endicott has got to love that. Great defensive start, forces the Salisbury punt. Christensen boots it. And now it will be Endicott's turn. Fielding it and falling down almost immediately is Adam Goodfellow, the senior. Now we will see Shea Lynch for the first time. Shea Lynch sat behind Clayton Morangi the last 2 years. Morangi, the 2024 Conference of New England Offensive Player of the Year. And Shea Lynch in his first season as a starter. You see the stats there. Doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah, it's going pretty well so far for Shea Lynch. Really a top 10 all-program season for the quarterback there, the junior out of Peabody, Massachusetts, has been really so efficient in the pocket, and he can also take off when he really has to, but his strength in the game is the efficiency when he has to throw it through the air. You got trips on the right side, see if they target it on the first play.
Instead, they will go on the ground. This is Ferreira. Brian Ferreira spinning into the arms of Ryan Salvosa. Ferreira, the Conference New England 2025 Rookie of the Year. Ryan Salvosa, one of the leading tacklers on the Seagull team. Ferreira running behind an offensive line from left to right. Shane Fitzgerald, Sean King, Vincent Insina, Joe Palumbo, and Da Vinci Sidney. The offensive lineman of the year in the Conference of New England. And boy, did Endicott really sweep those conference awards. Second down, they go back to the ground. Ferreira once again. Nothing. Jimmy Celentano got a hand on him. The graduate student in his 6th season due to injury makes the first play in what could be his final home game.
Yeah, and Coach Woods spoke so highly of Celentano as the quarterback of the Salisbury's defense because of the knowledge of the game that he possesses. He is able to read the RPO extremely well, and that's something that Coach Wood and his staff have extreme confidence in the kind of quarterback of that defense being able to sniff out those potential options that Endicott could try and throw out there to potentially trick the Salisbury defense with.
I formation on 3rd down and long. Lynch going to drop back from the shotgun. Pressure coming, throws in the flat to Ferreira. He makes the catch at the 20, bounces outside, can't hit away. The Seagull linebackers making an impact early. We'll see it here on the replay.
Yeah, you see the little bit of a flat wheel route there to Ferreira, and that's so important that you wrap up on first contact, especially against a guy who has such the explosiveness of course, as you mentioned, Jeremy, the Conference of New England Rookie of the Year, and Brian Ferreira. He's been so explosive when he's able to get the ball in his hands and able to get some open field. For Salisbury, you have to be able to capitalize on those open field opportunities and really not let Ferreira, or anybody for that matter, break out in open space.
Garroyd Stone's the freshman for the Gulls on to punt, and it is a good one. Back to the Seagull side of the 50. They'll get a chance to return it. Fisher around midfield makes a couple nice moves before a swarm of Endicott players bring him down about 2 yards short of midfield. There you see Joe Terrell, who we talked about just a moment ago. Conference of New England Defensive Player of the Year. And you mentioned number 0. That was something that Paul McGonigal talked to us about in our meeting. That's kind of a tradition for this Endicott program, worn by Colin Maropoulos last year. They choose the number 0 as kind of an honor that's passed down year to year. This year it's Joe Terrell, and the stats bared out. Obviously a good choice. McGowan, some early motion. This looks like it might have been a free play. However, it's stacked up immediately. Nick Ferguson in there as part of that interior defensive line, along with Caleb Luge. Darrell Walter got the call, but it might be a penalty. We'll see. We'll hear from Scott Campbell, our referee, for the first time today.
Defense, number 15. 5-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
There's the call. Scott Campbell, the referee, joined by Philip Nichols, the umpire, Michael Wazen Jr., the head linesman, Daniel Wetzel, the line judge, Chris Marsico, the field judge, Kennedy McFadden, the side judge, Kenneth Morton, the back judge, Joe Gebhardt, the play clock operator, and Felicia Gebhardt, the game clock operator. Third down. Gowan's going to hand it off this time. Close to the line to gain is Darrell Walter. He's got enough.
Hey, I tell you what, Endicott's defense was quaking in their boots right there. They did not have their right kind of system, and that's what you're going to see. The communication needs to be there for the Endicott side. The entirety of the far side on the other side of the hashes, they were still trying to figure out exactly who their responsibilities were. So if Salisbury is already starting to get kind of that confusion on the Endicott defensive front, it could be a very long game if the Gulls can't kind of get that under wraps here early.
Salisbury is yet to go to the air, and that'll continue here. The option to Belizaire. He's got a gap up the sideline. Dario Belizaire, see you later. Touchdown.
And there's the benefit of that option. You saw Cyrus McGowan holding on to it until the very last second, pitching it out to the Swiss Army knife and Dario Belizaire as your really last-ditch effort. And Belizaire, who really is better than Belizaire in getting him to those near sideline opportunities. You look at the explosive season that he's had. He led the team in touchdowns last year with 15 and then came into this year as the leading touchdown grabber with 11.
Yeah, Dario Belizaire has been the X factor for this Seagull offense all year. Tucker Smack with the PAT is good. Salisbury opens the scoring with 9:36 to go in the first quarter. They have got a 7-0 lead. Endicott now will be tasked with responding.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of look at Belizaire, kind of going back to that last play. He is that big play guy that you can expect. In the season finale against Vermont State Castleton for Salisbury, he only had one catch, but it was for 43 yards. And then on the opposite side, 2 total rushes for 20. So he averages over 25 yards per catch on the season. So he is that guy that you try and get the ball to and then see what happens after that. It's a whole wild card of things that could potentially happen after he gets the ball in his hands. That's how dynamic of a playmaker that he is. But as you mentioned, Endicott has to respond right now, and kind of a way that you do that is through your special teams and on the return. For Endicott, they are the top return team on kickoffs in the entire country. They average around 35 yards per kickoff return. So if there's any time to try and spark something quick on the offensive side for Endicott, you need to have a good return here, especially after Salisbury was able to sniff it out pretty well on the very first return for Endicott in this ballgame.
And that's got to feel good for Ryan Fleetwood, the offense coordinator in Salisbury, especially given the fact that in the Vermont State Castleton game that rounded out the regular season, although Salisbury won big, they did lose their starting left guard Logan Smith to injury. So Hayden Raymond, a freshman, gets the start along the offensive line today. Salisbury able to find the end zone that time. Here's the return. Bouncing outside, getting a decent chunk is Mateer.
Mateer on the return. Fisher on the tackle.
Shea Lynch, Brian Ferreira, Marquise Bridgewater, and company returning to the field now.
Yeah, see, that's not really that bad if you're Brian Mateer, and this offense is getting a pretty good start after another halfway decent return out of Endicott, and that's something that we saw against Vermont State Castleton in the season finale for Salisbury. One of the bigger returns that they allowed against the Spartans ended up resulting in a Vermont State touchdown later on in that drive. So that shows how instrumental that special teams can be.
Lynch is going to air it out, throws on the outside, and it is completed to Goodfellow, who's wrapped up and thrown out of bounds after a gain of about 7.
Great job by Jordan Scipio right there, just being able to, again, make the wrap-up in open field. You see Lynch looking immediately there to that sideline, and Scipio had no other choice but to either try and work him towards the outside line to get him out in case he does happen to break the tackle. But overall, great job by Salisbury so far on the defensive end to wrap up in the open field.
Lynch in the shotgun once again. Hands to Marquise Bridgewater, who bounces off left tackle. Bridgewater racing to the line to gain, and he's got it.
Marcus Bridgewater on the carry.
Marquise Bridgewater is really another kind of impressive aspect of this Endicott offense. You look at the junior out of Lawrence, first-team all-purpose back for the Conference of New England this year, and a third-team running back. So not even just the fact that he can perform very well on the run game, but also just being kind of that all-purpose Swiss Army knife that we were just talking about Belizaire about. Bridgewater also has that same kind of offensive capability.
Fresh set of downs for the Gulls offense, a run-heavy attack, but this time Lynch will air it out a little behind Joe Carrera. Incomplete. First incompletion of the day for Lynch on his third attempt.
I kind of like the idea there. I almost wish that Lynch would be able to look a little bit more to the outside, because he had a pretty good potential look at his kind of outside route that he had with Danny Silveria. He was out there, the sophomore tight end. He almost had a potential look, but they just went inside.
Now shovel pass forward gets about 4, but Salisbury was ready for the trickery. Bridgewater was the ball carrier. And Mike, throughout this game, we're going to be doing a lot of scoreboard watching. Of course, several games going on throughout the tournament today. One that primarily concerns these two teams, that being Springfield and Johns Hopkins, because it will affect the winner of this game will take on the winner of that game. The host site, TBD, that depends on both of those outcomes. But right now, Springfield an early 7-0 lead. 3rd down and 7. Salisbury looking for another 3rd down stop. Endicott looking to keep the drive alive. Lynch, the hard count. He's back in the pocket. Pressure coming off the edge. Throws one over the middle, broken up and incomplete.
Pass is incomplete. It was intended for Carrera.
And stopping this Endicott offense on 3rd down is going to be so imperative, as you saw right there. Salisbury had that sniffed out fairly well. You saw the great defensive play there made by Salisbury's defender. And really just able to get in the mix of it and break it up, not really allow any opportunity on that crossing middle route, and especially against a Endicott offense, which is no slouch. You look at their overall offensive numbers, especially on third down, and they are one of the best fourth down offenses, and they are also one of a top 40 first down offense. They've got the 34th most first downs achieved, so they're not hard to stop on, or they are very hard to stop on third and fourth down.
Deep catch by Fisher. Or Ayers, rather, excuse me, a flag is down. That was Nana Eshin-Baido with the breakup. And we'll hear from Scott Campbell once again. Looking like it's going to be against the Seagulls.
During a return, illegal block in the back on the receiving team, number 3. That penalty will be enforced half the distance of the goal line, first down.
It's called on the 4-year starter in the defensive backfield and special teamer as well, Kilo Mack. Salisbury's going to start deep in their own end.
And again, for Salisbury, although it's not optimal to be so far back in your own zone on the special teams return, this is a offense that can really kind of make up for that with their deep explosive plays and their ability to score, almost taking no time off the clock. We've seen that multiple times here where sometimes it just takes 1, 2, 3 yards from scrimmage or line from scrimmage to go almost the entire stretch of the field. So Salisbury is certainly capable to go against it, but as you see, Endicott standing tall.
It's Joe Terrell involved again. Chase Duncan in there as well. Darrell Walter given no room on this first play of the drive.
And again, Endicott's defense is also a kind of strength for this Endicott team. You look at really the 17th best overall defense in terms of yards allowed per game, sitting around 250, and they are also one of the best passing defenses in the entire league, averaging around 138 passing yards allowed per game. That's good for 8th most. So you kind of have the ability to get to
Here's
passing.
Another option to Belizaire. He's got a step, and he's got a big gain, and he is out of bounds past the 25-yard line. Dario Belizaire running to the left side. Been successful so far for the home team.
What a great fake out of McGowan and Walter there on the initial combination. Kind of made the entire Endicott defense bite, and that allowed for the option to develop to pitch it out to Belizaire as we've seen before. That's really what you want to see out of a option offense like Salisbury. They're able to hold on to the ball for so long that they can make the full on the initial play and then be able to pitch it out last-ditch effort on the last play.
Salisbury, in their triple option offense, they run with 3 backs, no tight ends. This time 2 receivers, 1 on each side. They have yet to air it out at all. And why not? Because the ground game has been working. Darrell Walter fighting forward towards the line to gain, and I think he just moved the chains once again.
And again, Walter has been that guy that Coach Wood and the rest of the staff has been looking to step up in a big way ever since the very beginning of this year. And boy, has he ever, especially after key graduations from last year's offense, when you look at guys like Michael Cox, who contributed so much to the offensive end for Salisbury in that superback position. He's really come in and filled those shoes extremely well.
First down and 10 as we approach 5 minutes remaining in the first quarter. McGowan under center. Calls his own number. McGowan, a big gap. McGowan, nothing but green turf in front of him down the right side. Cyrus McGowan, 15, 10, 5, touchdown.
Yeah, you talk about all the offensive weapons on the Salisbury side in terms of superbacks. Do not forget about the quarterback. That is one of the biggest offensive bursts that we see out of this Salisbury attack is when the quarterback calls his own number, and you see number 2 right there. That's why they rely on him and really give him the opportunity to lead ever since his first day here on campus, is because of that ability to kind of maneuver all throughout the field and see when he has to call his own number and be able to take it the rest of the distance. Like you saw, hits pay dirt. Seagulls up 13.
Make it 14 with the extra point. Cyrus McGowan. I'll correct that, actually missed it, so it'll stay 13-0. But Cyrus McGowan, academically a sophomore, transferred in from Lincoln University, and of course won NJAC Rookie of the Year last year, coming on in relief of Gage Castanel Hall, as you mentioned. And his record as a starter really is probably the thing that stands out the most, in my opinion, Mike, 16-2 overall since he's taken over as a signal caller. That his 9th rushing touchdown this year. And, you know, again, he's kind of been the face of this Seagull team past year and a half.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair to say, whether it be now that we're seeing Salisbury kind of pass it a little bit more than we have in recent years, he's also able to work well with the legs, which is what this offense is built around. You look at his overall season, his best day was in a game that really looked the roughest for Salisbury's offense, and that was against the Cane Cougars right here in Seagull Stadium. In that contest, he had 157 rushing yards for 2 total touchdowns, but all season long, it's been the Cyrus McGowan show here on the offensive side. He's able to pass very well, have multiple games where he's been able to eclipse 200 yards passing, but also able to do it on the rushing side as well.
Bridgewater out trying to get something going on the return, and a nice return by Marquise Bridgewater out close to the 30-yard line. Shea Lynch and this Gulls offense now facing a 2-score deficit with exactly 5 minutes remaining in the first quarter, trying to get something going. You see Paul McGonigal there, the head coach, discussing with his team. And since Paul McGonigal took over this Endicott program, haven't done a whole lot of losing. It's pretty much been all success.
Yeah, really turning things around for McGonigal ever since he entered the head coaching position in 2018. 5 NCAA appearances, 6-time CNE Coach of the Year, including a Region 1 Coach of the Year nod in 2023. They've won their first NCAA tournament game and scattered top 25 rankings all since 2022 under his tutelage.
Lynch on the rollout. The throw is complete to Goodfellow on the sideline. Did he get the feet down? It looks like he did. Second catch of the day for Goodfellow. Second completion for Lynch.
Tell you what, Jeremy, I like this offensive scheme out of Endicott right here. You see Lynch kind of rolling out to the left and hitting a comeback route on the sidelines. I think that's something that you're going to look to kind of implement here for Endicott.
Ferreira dives forward, and he's got the first down. Endicott going with pace offensively. We talk about how they match up with Salisbury. Endicott going no huddle right now. It's not something Salisbury's seen a whole lot. So we'll see how they respond. They go back to the ground. Actually, no play fake. The pass over the middle, tipped and incomplete. That was dangerous off the hands of Carrera.
Yeah, Carrera knew that one right off the bat. And again, Jeremy, you mentioned going in a little bit of high-tempo offense for this Endicott team. And it's kind of getting Salisbury's defense a little bit out of shape, because you look at a quick comeback route on the outside that I was talking about before. With the amount of space that the Salisbury defensive backs gives your receiver right off the line, look at the bottom of your screen. There's about 10 yards of separation there. So you want to try and implement that and attack that very often throughout your offensive attack.
Instead, they'll go on the other side to Goodfellow, who makes a man miss. Adam Goodfellow pushed out of bounds inside the 40.
What I tell you, targeting that space at the defensive back kind of gives you on playing back. You see Lynch, again, not even giving the handout. You just have a stop there around 5 yards in front of the defensive back, and that's free yardage that you can kind of take what the defense is giving you.
Lynch looking deep, throws one over the middle, got a man open, caught at the 10, down to the 5. It's Goodfellow again. Adam Goodfellow all over the field. Endicott inside the 5.
Yeah, you go kind of short routes the entire time and eventually load up for that deep strike. That's kind of what Salisbury like to do a lot of the times before, where they call it yo-yoing.
Actually, hold on, Mike. We got a flag, so let's hear from Scott Campbell.
Penalties against the offense. Personal foul. Hands to the face, number 55. 15-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
Wow. So take away the completion. The deep ball is wiped away. Da Vinci Sidney, we mentioned the CNE Offensive Lineman of the Year, called for hands to the face. So Endicott thought they were going to be inside the red zone with that deep post route to Goodfellow. Instead, they're back on their side of midfield.
Yeah, that's a big punch that you can't really allow, and those are the ones that you're going to start to miss later on, where you're thinking, what happened here? Why didn't we capitalize on this? Because you were almost down within the 5, and now you have to go all the way back on the other side of the 50.
First down and 25. Bridgewater goes in motion. Ferreira gets the carry on the trap play. Wrapped up about a yard past midfield. Ball came out. Seagulls think they have it. It's a matter of if he was down or not, although it looks like this is going to stay on this side, and it will.
A gain of 5. Now bring up second down and 20 for the
And Endicott, not really a team that you expect to have issues putting the ball on the ground. They're one of the best overall teams in turnover margin, tied for 14th with a +11, and the second fewest giveaways overall on the offensive side with 5 only. So you don't really see that too often. Salisbury kind of getting to it early here in the first quarter.
Lynch back in the pocket, throws in the flat. It's caught by Ferreira. 2 players there, make it 3. Gang tackled by Jimmy Celentano and Andrew Joya.
Chase Lomax was the initial screen right inside in the backfield almost, and Lynch kind of had to get it away quickly as soon as he saw Lomax in his face, and that allowed for the potential flat route that opened up. But as you mentioned, Jeremy, great job by the secondary of Salisbury to be able to rally to the ball and make up for Lomax after he had charged into the backfield and left that kind of option open for Lynch. Great job by Salisbury to have their backs.
3rd down and long, way long, 17. Carrera in motion again. Seagulls bring blitz. Lynch over the middle, too far for Jacob Ward. And incomplete, and it looks like this is going to be punt time for the Gulls. After some initial success with the hurry-up, the penalty on Da Vinci Sidney pretty much killed the drive.
I tell you, I like what Endicott is doing going over the middle. There's a lot of vacated space there with how Salisbury runs their defense. So I think that's something that you have to continue to target if you're the Gulls. You have a lot of open space there over the center. If you continue to attack that and maybe just have a little bit more accurate passes and being able to put the ball on your receiver's chest, you might be able to capitalize on that and string some drives together.
Stones to punt. Gets it away. It's a good one. Takes a friendly Seagull bounce, however, into the end zone. 2 minutes and 7 seconds remaining in the first quarter. Salisbury, a chance for a drive. They capitalize on it and put it in the end zone. It would be a 3-score lead. Endicott in need of a stop now.
Well, hey, we've talked about it, right? The Salisbury offense, last year, they were one of the best in terms of time of possession. They held onto the ball for so dang long. Now, it's almost like they can score at will. You've seen multiple big breakout plays, one from Belizaire, one from McGowan, to where they can flip position on the field almost in an instant. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what Salisbury can do. Obviously, they don't really have to do anything in these next 2 minutes since they'll have the second quarter, but still, it's going to be interesting to see if they run high tempo, if they're willing to take this into the second quarter.
Salisbury on offense, losing not just Logan Smith, but also Andre Matthews, one of their regular slot backs to injury as well. Another flag flies, this time from both sides. I think there was some early movement up front for the Seagulls.
Offside. Defense, number 15. 5-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
So scratch that. It's called on Caleb Luge for offsides. That'll give the Seagulls 1st and short.
After the penalty, it is 1st and 5 for the Seagulls at the Salisbury University 25-yard line.
They line up in their traditional triple option formation, 2 slot backs, a super back, and 1 receiver on each side. Clark and Brubaker, the wideouts. They're going to air it out for the first time. McGowan looking for Fisher, who was behind him and broken up. The Seagulls wanted pass interference for the early contact. That looked pretty much like a bang-bang play from here in real time. Looked like a good no call.
Yeah, I agree there. The first time that we're seeing Cyrus and the Salisbury offense really kind of target this top 10 passing defense in the entire country, and you kind of had 2 goals in the area there on the defensive end, so they were ready for it, and they weren't really caught off guard by Salisbury going to the air for the first time. But again, you have Brubaker here on the near side, and you have Fisher able to kind of undercut any passing defense that you have. So you have a deep sideline and also a middle threat in Fisher there.
And there's the biggest threat. It's Belizaire with his speed. He gets to the 35, and I think that's going to be enough to reset Dario Belizaire. Just so much speed running off left tackle.
Yeah, you know what? When you're on 1st and short scenarios like that one with 1st and 5, you can afford to have an incomplete pass on that first down, right? Because you have the rest of the way and you still only have half the distance to try and travel. So why not burn a play on first down and see exactly what you have going against this passing defense before going to old reliable and the bread and butter of Dario Belizaire on the very next play to get you a sure-handed first down.
Four down linemen for the Gulls. And they are there waiting for Darrell Walter, who, despite his best efforts, is going to get 2 yards and no more. Brian Daly in to make the tackle. Brian Daly, one of the 4 starting linemen, defensive linemen for Endicott, along with Luge, who we mentioned, Chase Duncan, and Nick Ferguson. Duncan, a grad student, the rest all juniors, so a veteran defensive line. One of the rare parts of this Endicott team that was not changed significantly from last year's team. They'll go back to the ground, does Salisbury, about 2 more, and it looks like that's going to take us to the end of the first quarter. A successful first quarter for Salisbury. They will take a 13-point lead into the break. Endicott, some things to figure out. Mike, Salisbury, we talked a lot about this Endicott ground attack, but it's been the Salisbury ground attack that's been more prominently featured in this first 15 minutes.
Yeah, and I think this is a favorable matchup for Salisbury because you're going against an extremely talented passing defense. We've talked about it all day. This kind of rushing defense for Endicott is kind of the weakest link on the defensive end, and that's something that for Salisbury you're luckily going to use rushing as your strongest attack that you have. So you can kind of match your best with their worst, for the lack of a better term. But yeah, you mentioned Salisbury performing extremely well on the ground, and it's shown off so far. You've had a couple of great option plays that kind of catapulted their offense, and also being able to test the passing attempts as well with their lone incomplete pass.
And we look at how these two teams fared tournament-wise. Of course, the coaches poll, Salisbury ranked 12th, 13th in the NPI. The other side, Endicott, 24th in the coaches poll, 15th in the NPI. Because they're both top 15 in the NPI, which is what is used to construct the bracket, they got first-round buys past the play-in games. And we mentioned some scoreboard watching. That's because the other game we're keeping an eye on, Springfield Johns Hopkins, they're tied 7-7 early in the second quarter right now. If Johns Hopkins wins, they will face the winner at Homewood Field in Baltimore regardless. If Salisbury wins and Springfield wins, then Salisbury will host the next round. If Springfield and Endicott both win, then Endicott would host. So a lot to keep an eye on as Daniel Clark gets his first catch of the day, and he's out past the 50.
Yeah, and kind of talking more about that bracket, Coach Wood and the Seagulls believe that they have all the ability in the world to really run through this quadrant of the bracket where you, ironically, have some of the best teams in the entire country. And so much so that the seeding of these teams are the second strongest of the 4 quadrants that there are, with a average MPI of around 16.8, 16, 17 or so. But that's because you have number 3 CNU, number 7 Johns Hopkins, and number 9 Franklin Marshall leading the way, until, of course, you have number 13 Salisbury and number 15 Endicott.
McGowan, the option. Belizaire with blocking. J.J. Thomas out there. Throws his body. It's enough for Belizaire to get another first down. Maybe a little bit short.
It's a gain of 9.
Yeah, and he will be 1 yard short, but again, so in the immediate sense, which is this game and then next week, there are 3 different possible host sites depending on the outcomes as Belizaire heads off. Endicott trying to make it as far as this program has ever gone. They made it to the second round for the first time ever last year, losing to Cortland 17-9. Salisbury, they won 2 playoff games last year against Kings College and Randolph-Macon before falling to Mount Union in the quarterfinals. Cyrus McGowan passed the line to gain.
That's another instance on this offense for Salisbury where you can really go with short yardage plays because you're on 2nd and 1. You have such a great first down play with Belizaire getting 9 that you can afford to, try and switch things up a little bit on the next play and try something that you haven't really tried before, or at least just a little bit of a safe play that is guaranteed to at least get you a yard, which with the Salisbury attack is basically all of them. We've seen them be able to go for extremely large chunk plays, so 1, no problem.
First down. McGowan, the play action drop with time. Deep in the middle in coverage, it's picked off. A pass that was blanketed all the way is intercepted by Alfino Davis. Decent return. Talking about turnovers, the graduate student, the veteran for this Endicott team, Alfino Davis, picks it off.
I'm not sure exactly what Cyrus was looking at, as there are flags on the field. You had a wide open look almost at Micah Brubaker. Sure, he was battling one-on-one in that far sideline, but he had kind of a self-manufactured comeback route. He said, all right, I'm going to just leave this contact and go back. He was wide open. Instead, you throw into triple, quadruple, almost quintuple coverage over the middle. We'll see what the flag is.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness on the return team on the interception, number 4. That ball will be placed half the distance from the spot of the foul. First down.
So it's Mason Backery that gets hit with the unnecessary roughness. It'll move Endicott back. However, they still get possession off the Alfino Davis pick. That has been a bit of a problem for Cyrus McGowan this year. But as you mentioned, just an ill-advised pass. And now Endicott, chance to get some momentum going for them. For Davis, second interception of the year, 26 total tackles, 2025 first team all-conference in New England. And here goes Marquise Bridgewater on the flare. Nothing.
Another great job by the Salisbury defense of rallying to the ball and stopping the play before it can even really develop there behind the line of scrimmage. That's what you're going to have to do against a high-powered rushing offense, is getting to the backfield and trying to wrap up as soon as possible before these talented offensive runners can make any shifty moves or anything like that where the play can really develop. If you can punch through that offensive line right off the bat, you're on a pretty good shot to try and stop that rush play.
Second down and 9. Lynch in the shotgun once again. I formation. And he will hand it off. Bridgewater. Decent gain before he's forced out of bounds by Scipio.
That play almost looked like it was going to be positive either way. You see Lynch on the initial draw and kind of just had trust in his running back to be able to get through and work to that sideline before the rest of the defense can work to them. Also credit to the blocks on that play as well.
Again, they'll go hurry up. On the out route too far for Goodfellow. Here we see Adam Goodfellow, a close-up shot of him, and he's been the most consistent receiver, really the only receiver that Lynch has targeted multiple times to this point. Shea Lynch, 5 of 9, make it 5 of 10 with that play. Second down, 4 receiver formation, 3 to the left, 1 to the right. Salisbury with 2 safeties. 2 safeties deep, I should say, Mack and Shield. The handoff, Bridgewater bounces it to the outside. To the right side, Bridgewater a step before he's forced out of bounds. Runs into the chain gang. And will be about 2 yards short of first down yardage.
What great patience there by Bridgewater. You saw him kind of assess the situation and assess the blocks that he had in front of him, able to really trust his offensive line to go to the outside.
But he's stuffed up on third down and short. I don't think he got it. It's going to be very, very close. Salisbury thinks it's fourth down.
Bridgewater, the ball carrier.
Each team signaling the other way.
Timeout on the field.
And we might have a measurement coming up. The line to gain, is the 41. Ball looks like it might be just a little bit short of there. And that's exactly what the call will be. It'll be fourth down and short. The offense staying on the field for the Gulls.
Fourth down and inches at that. That thing is so close to the 41-yard line, almost maybe a quarter of a foot away. And this is the offense that you want to have out there. They produce extremely high, sitting at around 70% on fourth down.
Lynch alone in the backfield, and now they shift Bridgewater back there with him, but another stoppage.
Please reset the play clock to 25 seconds.
And there was a play clock issue that probably benefited Endicott. They looked like they were in a bit of a panic. Play clock will reset to 25.
All right, well, 14 of 20 on fourth down for this Endicott offense. That's a top 15 fourth down offense. Let's see if they can get it here on 4th and inches.
Lynch going with the hard count. Looking at Paul McGonigal for the signals. Now Lynch talking with his offensive lineman. The home grandstand making noise. 7 on the play clock. 6. Lynch. Options at Bridgewater. He's got it and more. Marquise Bridgewater through the gap and up the sideline. First down.
A little taste of Salisbury's own medicine right here. Look at Lynch on the initial hard count, not able to get anybody to jump, and then right there running the option and able to just pitch it out there at the last second to his playmaker, Marquise Bridgewater. And that time, instead of using the patience, he just uses brute force speed to get around the line and get all the way to the sideline and burst forward for the first.
Back to the ground here. We look at Marquise Bridgewater, the junior out of Lawrence, Massachusetts, who 2025, 609 yards, 9 touchdowns, 12 receptions, 123 yards, and 1 touchdown through the air. Conference of New England first team all-purpose player, third team as a running back.
Right, and that's because of his ability to produce both on the ground and in the air. You kind of heard his stats. 12 receptions for 123 yards, so that's over 10 yards a reception, I should say, on top of his already exceptional rushing season as well. So it makes sense why they wanted to give him kind of both accolades there with the all-purpose and running back nods.
Now it's the primary ball carrier that gets it back here. That's Brian Ferreira. We talk about Bridgewater's impressive stats. Well, Ferreira, 111 rushes, 1,023 yards, 14 touchdowns, Conference of New England Rookie of the Year honors, Conference of New England second teamer, and a touchdown in each of the last 6 games. So Bridgewater's a weapon, but so is Brian Ferreira.
Yeah, of course, and even looking at Joe Carrera as well, you got a whole bunch of different guys that can contribute on the offense. Jacob Ward at tight end, Thomas Skeffington even, Michael O'Brien, Jason Little. You got so many different guys that can contribute on the offensive end. That's why I called them multi-dimensional at the very start of this broadcast.
3rd down and 4. Ferreira's going to get the call, bounces outside, wrapped up a little bit short and pushed out of bounds. And a late altercation with Mack, and now a flag's going to fly. This might be on Kilo Mack, and that would be costly on what would have been 4th down and short.
Yeah, great initial play on the wrap-up by Mack, but if we had followed that for just a little bit longer, you saw the altercation nearby the bench where, of course, you're going to have emotions. It's a playoffs. I mean, for crying out loud, you're going to have emotions, but for Mack, you have to know that you have the eyes on you on the official. The official was behind the bench as well of the Seagull bench players, so they were watching out for that because they knew.
Personal foul. Late hit out of bounds. Number 3 on the defense. Half the distance to the goal line. Automatic first down.
There you hear it. Late hit out of bounds called on Kilo Mack.
While Seagull fans might not like it, I agree the whole rest of the way. You got to know where you are on that situation. And we saw it from up here. Sure enough, the officials saw it too.
So gives Endicott a fresh set of downs from the 15-yard line so they can get a first down. But with under 8 minutes to go in the half, they're looking to find the end zone. Remember, Salisbury received first. Ferreira pushed back. He's in trouble. Ferreira trying to make something happen. Still a couple nice moves, but he cannot get away from Andrew Joya.
That's one of the strong points of this Salisbury defense is being able to stick with the play. And even after first contact misses, second contact right there, third one is going to get him down. 3rd time's the charm for Andrew Joya. He's able to get there and wrap up for a negative play after a penalty. Kind of gave a fresh set of downs to Endicott and pushed them forward. Almost Salisbury getting it all right back.
Endicott will get the ball to start half number 2, so a chance to really make some noise here with the first half winding down. Lynch flares one out in the flat to Bridgewater. Bridgewater cuts inside. Marquise Bridgewater turns nothing into something. And all that for a 3-yard gain.
Even still, it looked pretty good. I mean, you've seen Bridgewater high step a couple of times so far through these first 2 quarters. And as soon as you start seeing him tote those legs up, you got to know that something pretty crazy is going to be coming on the way. Even though it only got 3 yards, it's still showing the elusiveness that he almost kind of has to really kind of keep that in the back of the defensive player's mind, potentially later on when it could come to fruition.
Lynch in shotgun. 2 receivers each side. Bridgewater to his right. Lynch into the end zone. It is caught. Reaching over. Down at the 1. They say is
Down at the 1 yard line.
Jason Little. Little, one of the captains on this Endicott team, and now the Gulls are going to push the pace. Salisbury confused. They've got late substitutions, and now they're going to get another penalty. This is going to be 12 men, but it won't really matter because Endicott is into the end zone. So this play will stand. Salisbury hit with the too many men penalty, and the tempo causing problems for Rob Disbennett's defense.
And that's the benefit of running a high-tempo
During the
offense.
play. 12 men on the field, defense. That penalty is declined. Result of the play is a touchdown.
You see the 12 men on the field call. I think there were probably like 14 guys back there because they just were not ready for it at all because they weren't sure of the initial call. Granted, whether it got in on the initial reception to Little, as you mentioned, over the field. Salisbury's defense still a little bit confused. And Salisbury really showing the emotion.
Yeah, they call a timeout, and Rob Disbennett is furious.
Timeout, Salisbury. That is the first of the half.
They almost got hit with another 12-men penalty.
It's a new era for college sports. NCAA.
Meanwhile, Bridgewater finds the end zone to open the scoring for Endicott with under 6 minutes to go in the half.
And especially upset on the sideline for Salisbury is Abdul Atwara, the senior defensive lineman. He's trying to rally the troops almost on those most recent plays, and that's what you're going to look for. You're looking for your senior leadership to be able to kind of get your defense under control when everything isn't going so optimally. And as you mentioned, Disbennett also extremely upset on the potential ramifications of those plays. That was really the difference between Endicott potentially going for 2 here if the penalty did happen to be called.
Forces Sherman Wood to use one of his 3 timeouts. Sherman Wood over 200 wins in his coaching career here at Salisbury. Career that stretches back to 1999. Before that, spent a few seasons at the head coach at Bowie State. The snap, the kick is up and through. 13-7. PAT is made by Brendan Alfaro Jr.
Yeah, and you mentioned kind of the head coaches of these 2 programs. Sherman Wood got his 200th SU career victory back a couple of games ago against Rowan on the road. And again, he's kind of really the face of Salisbury football as of the last 27 seasons, 12 NCAA tournament appearances, 10 total conference championships, 7-time conference coach of the year, 2024 AFCA coach of the year in the entire country, and also the winningest coach in SU football history. That, of course, came after a pretty standout, stellar defensive back career for Salisbury back when they were Salisbury State back from 1980 to 1983. Coach Wood got All-State honors from the Baltimore Sun in addition to an All-American nod from the Street and Smith selectors there. And he helped to lead the Seagulls to their first ever NCAA tournament appearance back in 1983 in his senior season, advancing to the national semifinals. On the opposite side, though, we've talked about head coach Paul McGonigal for Endicott a couple of times so far. In his 8 seasons, he's really turned this program around. 71-16 overall record, that's 81 overall winning percentage, 5-time conference coach of the year in the CNE, and also a Region 1 coach of the year by Division3Football.com. And that came after a Division I playing career. He played for the Kentucky Wildcats at the Division I level from 96 to 99 as a tight end and offensive lineman. So 2 great coaches, 2 great bench bosses leading these programs in the battle today.
He was a teammate of Tim Couch as Belizaire returns it. Dario Belizaire, who we talked about, been first-team All-NJAC now 2 years in a row. Cyrus McGowan, part of a quartet of Seagull offensive players that made second team All-NJAC offensively, along with Micah Brubaker, Daniel Clark, and Brian Irving. Darrell Walter, of course, was All-NJAC first team. 5:50 to go in the first. How will the Seagull offense respond? They'll start it off running. McGowan calls his own number.
Cyrus McGowan on the carry.
Gets tackled after a 4-yard gain. Salisbury's only thrown the ball 3 times. Why not? They already have 170 yards on the ground.
Yeah, and kind of again going to McGowan on the ground. His third overall rush here in this game, 66 overall rushing yards for him. Of course, outpaced by Dario Belizaire, their leading rusher, with 84.
Pitch out, Belizaire going left. Again, he turns the corner. Dario Belizaire steps out of bounds after another chunk play. Maybe no one better at horizontal movement than Dario Belizaire.
Yeah, exactly. The kind of key to this Dario Belizaire machine is just letting him go east to west, right? You let him go from either one side to the other because of the speed that he has. He's able to outpace all of the line that is blocking right up front. So when you go to the outside, that allows you, with a speedy back like Belizaire, to be able to use that speed and get all the way around him and find some green turf.
McGowan, the late option. Belizaire snags it with one hand, and that could have been disastrous. You see McGowan upset with the officials for the late tackle. See it on the replay here. This is really a nice play by Belizaire.
Yeah, it's almost pass-worthy almost since the ball had gone forward, but
yeah,
still a one-handed snag by Belizaire to keep the play alive on the sideline. That's pretty hard to do when you have to keep track of where your feet are and who's in front of you, to be able to, instead of using two hands, just use the furthest hand away to kind of reel it in before it goes sailing into the Endicott bench. You see Daniel Clark right there. He's on the near sideline. He's only gotten a limited amount of action so far today. Only one catch for 12 yards. That's the only completion.
That'll change here. McGowan looks his way on the post. Clark can't haul it in. Wanted the flag for the early contact. Oh, so close for Daniel Clark.
And that's been the story of this Salisbury offense all year. You get Daniel Clark open. He's one of the best receivers, per Coach Wood and the staff, of getting open and being able to find space and separation with the defensive backs. You just got to reel it in when you can. And you see Clark a little bit upset with himself. That was a perfect opportunity where Salisbury has been attacking short, attacking mid, and then when Endicott least expects it, you go for the long ball, just that time not able to come up with it.
They'll throw it again. McGowan on the deep out. This time Clark does make the catch and move the change. Cyrus McGowan goes right back to number 4. One of the captains at the start of the year for the Seagull team, a little shaken up, but Daniel Clark makes the catch and resets the downs.
And redemption for number Quattro and Daniel Clark. You saw right there, he was able to get open through 3 Endicott goal defenders. So he has the ability of finding space and being able to get himself open to make the play. And when he catches it, it's going to be special.
First down, 3 minutes and change to go in the half. The pitch to Belizaire, running left with blocking. Mason Fisher out there. He throws himself. Belizaire undercuts. He gets hit hard, but does get the first down. And see that big hit. He's a little slow to get up.
And right when you get the defense thinking about the pass on back-to-back completions, you almost, maybe if you're Salisbury, want to see a potential horse collar there with the way that Belizaire was flung around, as they'll continue to check on him.
And this would be a catastrophic loss for Salisbury, so we will step away for a moment while they tend to him. We'll be right back here on ESPN+. So Dario Belizaire able to walk off under his own power. 2 seconds added back to the play clock. 2:49 now remaining in the half. Jeremy Carr and Mike Greco here with you on ESPN+. We wind down the first half of this second round matchup of the NCAA Division III football tournament 2025, Salisbury versus Endicott. Seagulls leading 13-7 and looking for more. McGowan to Mason Fisher, who we haven't said his name a lot today, but he has been a big part of this Seagull offense all year.
Yeah, and 100%. You maybe saw a little bit of an attempt to include Mason Fisher a little bit earlier on in one of the incomplete passes. That was the very first one that Salisbury threw. But, yeah, you mentioned it. Just Fisher is that big play, explosive guy that Salisbury looks to try and implement on offense. Overall, looking at Fisher, the junior out of Westminster, is your real gadget guy. He can both run the ball and also catch, with 350 overall rushing yards on the year and 235 receiving. So kind of as Swiss Army knife as Dario Belizaire was.
That'll take us down to the 2-minute timeout. The Seagulls threatening with 2 minutes to go in the half. But again, Endicott kicked off to start the game. They'll get the ball to start half number 2. Paul McGonigal still with all 3 timeouts at his disposal. So a couple different ways Salisbury can choose to go about this offensively. What are you thinking, Mike?
I think if you're Salisbury here, you got to try and at least go with what's worked. I know that you don't really have Dario Belizaire right now, so you can't really attack the outside. But I think we're starting to see Salisbury lean towards a little bit more of a passing attack. I mean, we've seen back-to-back targets with Daniel Clark, one of them just off the fingertips and the other with a wide open, through triple coverage catch. So I think if you're Salisbury, you maybe want to try and at least see what you have on the passing side. Obviously, it's only a 6-point game with around 2 minutes to go. So this is your chance to try and get some points before, Jeremy, as you mentioned, Endicott gets the ball at the start of the second half. So no matter what, you got to get points here if you're Salisbury, and that can come through a whole multitude of different avenues with how fast-paced we've talked about the Salisbury offense being.
McGowan calling the signals with Walter behind him. McGowan through the gap, calls his own number again. Cyrus McGowan spinning into the end zone. Touchdown, his second of the day. It's the quarterback again.
Or you could do that, right? We've seen Cyrus call his number multiple times. He was the second overall rusher behind Belizaire earlier on, and that time just being able to keep the feet underneath of him and keep it rolling through the contact and through everything else. That's why Cyrus has been able to lead this offense so well, because he's not afraid to call his own number, and he's able to read those kind of blocks that are set up in front of him so that he can be able to power through. And with the 6'3", 230 frame that he boasts, when he gets through contact, he's going to keep on rumbling.
And Tucker Smack has this one blocked, I believe, but it goes through the uprights regardless, so he atones for his earlier miss. He's now 2 of 3 on PATs today. So $153 for Shea Lynch and this Gulls offense to work with. Again, all 3 timeouts. Chance to kind of go 2 for 1 here coming out of the second half if they're able to score successfully.
Now, that's easier said than done, right? When it comes to Endicott, what has worked well so far has, of course, kind of, if you had to look at either or, neither have really gone all that well, but you have 61 overall passing yards, 8 of 13 for Shea Lynch. On the rushing side, you have 65 overall rushing yards, split between Ferreira and Bridgewater, the latter having 55 overall net yards, and the, of course, lone score that Endicott was able to collect. So I guess you kind of have to go with a little bit more fast-tempo offense like we've seen Endicott kind of be accustomed to throughout the first 2 quarters so far. So if there's any team that has to operate in a 2-minute drill, I would trust Endicott pretty well to try and operate this and potentially get some points back.
And a little score update for you after Springfield jumped ahead 7-0 early in the other game we're keeping an eye on. Johns Hopkins has scored 20 unanswered. Elsewhere, Susquehanna ahead of Christopher Newport 21-7. Here's the return from Bridgewater. Out of bounds just past the 20.
And hey, that Susquehanna-CNU game means a lot, right? That was a game that the Riverhawks lost against the Captains earlier on part of a undefeated and stellar season by the Christopher Newport Captains that culminated in an NJAC championship over these same Salisbury Seagulls. Riverhawks potentially looking for some redemption against CNU, and that could have some big kind of ramifications on whoever comes out of this matchup. Should Salisbury or Endicott beat their next matchup between either Johns Hopkins or Springfield, either of these teams could host if they have to go against Susquehanna in the game before the semifinal, and that could be massive for either of these two teams to have another hosting opportunity later on in this quarter of the bracket.
Minute 46, Shea Lynch has to work with, throws the quick out. This is caught by Little. He's wrapped up inbounds by Andrew Joya, who has been all over the field to start out of the defensive backfield. Andrew Joya, a senior out of Ridgewood, New Jersey, 35 total tackles coming into today, 16 of them solo, along with 3 pass breakups.
And kind of real quick note, since we're talking about surprising games so far, Eastern over Franklin and Marshall so far, 21-13 going into the half as well.
Bridgewater, a couple bounces. This is 2 separate flags, I believe. One was thrown at the start of the play, and then Scott Campbell, the referee, threw a second. So I think we might have offsetting penalties here. And Mr. Campbell?
Two fouls on the play, both by the offense. Illegal motion, number 13. That is declined. Holding, number 55. 10-yard penalty, repeat second down.
So actually scratch that off. Both called on the Gulls. 2 separate penalties again.
After the penalty, second down at 13.
It's the holding call that's going to be enforced. Sherman Wood opting to take the 10-yard call instead of the 5-yard call. Makes it second down and 13. 91 seconds to go in the half. Lynch back, pressure coming. Throws the screen, it's complete. A lot of room now for Ward. He tries to go outside. It looked like Ward would have had more space if he'd have kept going up the middle there, Mike.
Yeah, kind of strange that you would see a little bit of a screen there, almost on a crossing route, almost throwing it in front of where the offensive line was. But yeah, and that was ultimately wrapped up by Taj Kantosis, and that was something that I kind of took notice of. I was thinking, are they going to try and target number 12 in maroon and gold on the near sideline? Because he's kind of been that force that has to really step up, the sophomore defensive back, in the absence of Malachi Baker on the Salisbury defensive secondary.
Bridgewater up the middle. He's got the first down and a whole lot more. Big third down conversion by Marquise Bridgewater.
On the carry, gain of 15 yards, good for a Gulls first down.
No timeout yet.
Endicott College.
Again, Endicott still has all 3, but the clock is running under 40 seconds. Gulls going in hurry up. Taking a lot of time now, almost 10 full seconds run off the clock. On the sideline, it's complete to Carrera. He steps out of bounds, so that will stop the clock, but only a 4-yard gain.
Yeah, I'm not exactly. You saw Lynch clapping his hands, trying to get the offensive set a little bit quicker. And I get that you're going to continue throwing out routes, as that was the play beforehand, but you're going to continue to throw out routes here and target that sideline so that you potentially don't have to use your timeouts. I don't know exactly why they didn't call one there, but maybe so that they have one when they get to the other side of the 50. Or they have 3, rather.
28 and a half seconds left. Again, they go to Carrara on the sideline, and he steps out after getting the first down. Joe Carrara on the left side a couple times has been successful, and now Endicott on the plus side of the 50, but only 23.7 seconds to work with.
That's good for Endicott. You saw Salisbury subbing out Taj Kantosis back for Jordan Scipio, so they're kind of shoring up that near sideline. And we'll see, again, 10 yards of separation there at the bottom of your screen. We'll see if they continue to target that or maybe even go to the trips on the right side.
Running a West Coast hurry-up look here. Lynch deep over the middle. It is broken up. Patrick Scheel contested it with Little. Did not allow the big gain.
Okay, so this is almost like a chess match, right? You kind of get Salisbury thinking that you're going to continue to target those sidelines so that you can preserve the clock, but instead you go for a deep strike over the middle because you have those timeouts left. If that did happen to be completed, then you're able to just call it as soon as they go down, and now you're still in the 45, so maybe you go to the I would like to see a pass to the far sideline. You got one-on-one coverage, basically. Maybe you have that high safety shift over on the right side. They have motion over there. They could be looking that way.
Brendan Alfaro, the Gulls kicker, has only attempted 4 field goals this year. And now we'll see a timeout from Paul McGonigal with 11.3 seconds to go. But this still well beyond what would be his range.
Gain of 4 yards. Timeout, Endicott. That is their first of the half.
So they have the 2 timeouts now after the first one is called, but you figure each play is going to take even the quickest play between 5 and 6 seconds. With only 11, make it 12 seconds even on the clock. You don't have a lot of time to still get in position for a field goal, and a deep play is going to take even longer.
Right. It's very curious to see how this drive has kind of situated itself, especially when you think back to when Endicott was on the other side of the 50 and they were kind of just sitting there twiddling their thumbs waiting to call a timeout. That killed probably enough time for 1, maybe even 2 plays that, of course, you don't think about maybe in the time, but now starting to see that clock being against you, man, we really wish that we could have those around 10 or so seconds that we lost there on that confusion. 12 seconds overall to play in this first half. Endicott, you got to come away with points so that you can try and double up coming back out into the second half.
Let's see what they do. It's also 3rd down, so keep that in mind as well. They need 6. Lynch back in the pocket, now stepping up. He's got a lot of room to run it himself, and he will. Gets the first down and steps out of bounds, now down to 5.6 on the clock.
Now they're set up on the 34, so
on the fringe.
On the fringe. But even still, I don't think that this is good enough for a field goal. I think you're going to have to try for one more deep strike to the end zone. I think you have to go for 6 here for Endicott. I don't think you have any time to target the sidelines or anything of that matter. You might just have to really put your best against their best right now and send something to the end zone.
And Paul McGonigal takes his second time out. Wants to really figure out the strategy here. Another factor to this is Brendan Alfaro stretching out his leg on the sideline, so maybe not looking completely healthy for what would be a long attempt were they to take that route. And that might handcuff them. They might be forced to go to the end zone a couple times.
Yeah, even if you throw maybe like a hitch over the middle of the field, I still think with the amount of time that it takes to set that up, or even a crossing route over the middle, I still think it takes more than 5.6 seconds to try and set that up. And for what? You're on 4th down and 1, so if you miss, your drive is done, and you turn the ball over. So he did not end up getting the first down on that most recent play, did Shea Lynch, so it's all or not.
Lynch back. They're going to go for it all here. Lynch towards the end zone. It is picked off. Scheel again. And that's how the first half will end. An exclamation point from Patrick Scheel. This mighty Endicott offense has been held in check by this Seagull defensive group led by Rob Disbennett. And the ground attack of mainly Cyrus McGowan propels the Seagulls to a 20-7 lead heading into the break. We are going to step away. Don't go anywhere. We've got a entire second half of playoff football. NCAA 2025 Division III second round, Salisbury versus Endicott. Again, second half coming up here after the break on ESPN+. Welcome back, everyone, to ESPN Plus, the NCAA Division III football tournament of 2025, second-round action, Salisbury versus Endicott. I'm Jeremy Carr alongside Mike Greco here at Seagull Stadium in Salisbury, Maryland. Salisbury leading Endicott 20-7 at halftime as these teams come out for the start of the second half. Mike, some interesting outcomes going on around the landscape of the Division III bracket right now.
Yeah, 100%, Jeremy. The word I like to use is turbulence. There is a very turbulent second round going on around the entire league. I mean, you look at Susquehanna, they're a team who's looking for revenge against the Christopher Newport Captains after losing to CNU earlier on in the regular season as a matchup that they were favored in. They currently lead the Captains 21-7 at halftime. That's in this quarter of the bracket, so that's very pertinent and important to both of these two teams in Endicott and Salisbury. Potentially one that's even more important is a game going on currently between Johns Hopkins and Springfield, where the Blue Jays currently lead 20-7 overall, kind of rounding out this little quarter of the bracket. You have Eastern in a little bit of a upset almost coming up against Franklin and Marshall, 21-14 at the half. The Eagles up on the Diplomats right now after the Diplomats surged into the top 10 in the MPI after defeating Johns Hopkins in the final week of the season. So it's going to be a matchup where anybody can come out of the second round and potentially have multiple different outcomes here as we go towards the third round. Jeremy, you and I were talking about it a little bit before, a lot of hosting implications potentially being jumbled up here throughout the early going, and it's definitely going to be interesting to see. For Salisbury, you need a lot to happen to kind of get you a hosting opportunity in general. You need Springfield to beat Johns Hopkins, and really same thing for Endicott as well. And then after that, it's all anybody's guess.
Sure, these two teams mainly focused on these next 30 minutes of football more than anything else going on in the land of Division III football as a whole, but Salisbury had to be happy with that first half, especially in the ground game department. Boy, the rushing attack for the Seagulls, 218 total rushing yards, 89 rushing yards for the Gulls of Endicott, 90 passing yards through the air for Shea Lynch, just 35 for the home team. Lynch in passing, 12 and 19, did have a pick, although that was at the end of the half on a Hail Mary, so take that as you will. But rushing-wise, Marquise Bridgewater, 10 for 74 and a touchdown. And for Salisbury, 8 rushes for 106 yards coming from Dario Belizaire as well as a touchdown. He was a little shaken up at the end of the first half, so we'll keep an eye out on if he returns at all. But Cyrus McGowan, the quarterback, was really the headliner. Passing just 2 of 5, did have a pick, but 4 rushes for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns. Paul McGonigal and the Endicott Gulls will get the ball to start half number 2. One of these teams is 30 minutes away from the end of their season. One of these teams is 30 minutes away from punching their ticket to the next round.
30 minutes for the rest of your lives, right? That's what these two teams are fighting for right now, and the opportunity to live to fight another day with the amount of camaraderie between these two teams. Talking about Salisbury, Coach Wood talked about how they were really appreciative of the team dinner that they had in lieu of Thanksgiving just a little bit earlier on in the week, and that's kind of the sentiment that you get from a lot of teams going into the postseason, is that you're playing to live another day and to stay with your team and keep the unit together for one more day. Because after you lose, a lot of guys are graduating. We saw Endicott and Salisbury alike lose so many key contributors to graduation. And then now, you know, you got to just play with what you got right now, and you got to ignore everything else. As you mentioned, the entire rest of the tournament can play out as it may, but you're playing to keep on getting deeper into that tournament.
Yeah, you mentioned the big losses from Endicott, which we'll touch on more on the other side of this play. Shea Lynch back to start the second half. It looks like he might air it out down the middle, and he will. It is caught by Little. Jason Little down inside the 30. What a start to the half for the Gulls.
And a great job by Shea Lynch and the Gulls, targeting Patrick Shield early and kind of just throwing it. You saw the arc on that one, getting it right over the head of Shield to the point where all he could do was just keep on running with it and hope to catch up. Another great job. They're going to continue to target Jason Little, one of the senior captains on this team.
They'll throw the out route, and it is caught by Little to move the chains once again. Back to this tempo offense that Endicott had success with in the first half. Shea Lynch and company pushing pace, 2 passes, 2 completions to Jason Little to start the drive, and all of a sudden Endicott inside the 20. Once again in the shotgun. Hands it off to Bridgewater. Marquise Bridgewater gets about 5. 3 positive plays to start for the Gulls, trying to open up this first half with a touchdown drive and make it a 1-score game once again.
Yeah, and Little, you mentioned it, 2 straight receptions. That's as many as he had in the first half on 3 total
touchdowns.
Targets.
Adam Goodfellow.
And who led this Endicott offense through that first half? That man right there, Adam Goodfellow, had 35 yards receiving through the first half. And now this time they went right back to him. Their leading receiver through the first half now puts the Gulls within 7 total points. You saw just a quick little shifty move to the inside to get around his lone pursuant. And now Endicott is right there from being 6 points away, potentially.
An opening drive that took just 1 minute and 8 seconds. The extra point from Alfaro is good. 20-14. So a rough start to the second half for the Seagull defense. But on the Endicott side, we talk about big losses, and we mentioned Clayton Morangi, the 2024 CNE player, offensive player of the year. But beyond him, they lost All-American tackle Charlie Calais, All-American Brendan Gill, All-Conference defensive tackle Colin Moropoulos. We mentioned him because he wore number 0. That was passed down to Joe Terrell. And the 2024 CNE defensive player of the year, Hector Johnson. And yet, through all of that, all these new faces, including Shea Lynch, including Brian Ferreira, here they are in the second round in a 1-score game.
And yeah, I mean, that's all part of that next man up kind of ideology, right? You have those senior leaders so that you can kind of empower the next generation of your leaders in the program. And you can even say that about Salisbury as well. I mean, guys like Darrell Walter didn't see as much playing time last year because obviously you had the superbacks in Ronald Clark and Michael Cox and the slot back in Jaden Davis as well. So you, as a little bit of a false start there from Endicott, not penalized though, of course, but you have the opportunities to let your younger guys grow and develop through the leadership that you have in your seniors. So it's not as much of a loss because you're kind of getting a mini-me of them later on in the younger guys.
Salisbury's first touch of the second half is a return from Dario Belizaire, who is back on the field, and a good return from Belizaire. So good signs for the home team and the home fans. Now out comes Cyrus McGowan, Darrell Walter, and the rest of the Seagull offense.
And yeah, you talk about being an instrumental return there for Dario Belizaire and Salisbury. 106 overall rushing yards, I should say, from Dario through that first half. And obviously led the team in that category, also scored one of Salisbury's touchdowns. So getting him back gives you so much of an advantage when you're going to the outside edge. That's usually where he's the most dominant at.
Flag flies as Walter dives forward.
Walter, the ball carrier, flag on the play.
Our first penalty of the second half, we'll hear from Scott Campbell, but it's looking like it's going to be on the Seagulls, probably an illegal formation call is what this is in the area of. And here is Scott Campbell.
Personal foul, illegal chop block, number 65 and 63. 15-yard penalty against the offense. Repeat first down.
So there you hear it, an illegal chop block called on the left tackle and the left guard, Brian Irving and Hayden Raymond.
After the penalty,
that's a
15
15-yard penalty that puts Salisbury back in a 1st and 25 situation. And in a run-heavy team, this is not what they wanted to see. What they do want to see is Cyrus McGowan charging the gap himself for a 5-yard gain.
Yeah, and that when you talk to coaches, they say that we want to try and limit negative plays on first down because that erases the positivity of a 5-yard rush like we just saw out of McGowan, because instead of celebrating, say, okay, we halved the distance to the first down marker that we needed, no, you still have 20 yards to go until you can get that first down, and you still have one less down to do it in. So that's why a lot of teams kind of harp on not having those self-enforced penalties that can push you back so much.
McGowan play fake, back to throw. Towards the right side for Brubaker, who jumps but cannot make the catch. It was broken up.
McGowan's pass intended for Brubaker, incomplete.
2 defensive players in the area to break it up. Alfino Davis among them. He had the pick earlier.
The first time that they're trying to get Micah Brubaker involved, his first target on the day. The only others going to Daniel Clark and Mason Fisher. Brubaker is kind of that guy that you can send down there and kind of be your speed threat. He was very quiet to start the first half of the year, but kind of picked it up and turned it on towards the second half, including 3 catches for 49 yards, including a score against our rival CNU, as well as, just overall great year for 36 yards.
Wings it. Is that picked off? No, it is an incomplete pass. Mason Backery jumped the route. He was looking for Belizaire on the out route, so the penalty on Irving and Raymond kills the drive. And now Endicott's going to get the ball back with a chance to drive and maybe take the lead.
It looked like Belizaire at least came up with it. Obviously, it hit the ground beforehand, but it was a pretty good idea. You go with a little bit of a low throw, and Belizaire, with the sure hands that he has, of course, is going to give you a pretty good chance at reeling that one in. Just, sometimes it doesn't exactly go your way, so now Salisbury has to try and rebound from it.
Punt from Christensen, a low liner, but it takes a seagull bounce at the 40, rolling all the way back inside the 30 to the 29, where it is downed, and that's where Shea Lynch and company will set up.
That one, not usually when you see kickoffs and punts, they're end over end. They go with the top spin. That one was almost kind of rolling sideways, and I think that really allowed the kick to continue rolling to that favorable Salisbury bounce that you mentioned. They'll place it at the 28 instead. Looks like it got an extra yard than we had initially thought, but yeah, that's certainly a good strategy that you can implement if you're Christensen and the rest of this special teams unit, is that you can get a lot of distance out of it. Had 42 yards on his previous punt before that. That one also a pretty good field position turner.
So here goes Lynch, early motion. That's going to set the Gulls back 5. It came from the right tackle, Da Vinci Sidney. And now the Endicott offensive line is pointing towards the Seagull side, but that was a pretty clear call that we saw from up here. So it'll be 1st and 15.
Yeah, you had Jacob Ward in motion, and I think when you start implementing all the pre-snap motions and things like that, sometimes snaps can, catch the guards like we saw right there a little bit off kilter because they're expecting a shout to be a snap call, and it's not. It's just a motion.
Handoff, nothing. Mateer, one of the captains at the start of the year that Paul McGonigal mentioned in our meeting as one of the leaders of this team. Brian Mateer lost his starting running back job to Ferreira, but he gets the carry here, and that brings up 2nd down and 14. Here is Lynch with four receivers wide, 3 to the right, 1 to the left. He'll drop back alone in the shotgun, throws it over the middle. It's caught by Carrera, who makes a move, makes another, sets up 3rd down and short.
Yeah, that's what Endicott is going to have to start doing, targeting that middle of the field. In the Salisbury defense, you're giving them a lot of space towards middle of the field for those crossing routes to really kind of work efficiently on the offensive side. If Endicott can continue to rely on their offensive line to hold up the blocks until they can get a crossing route across the middle, it might be able to help them string this drive together and string some plays along. So it looks like Endicott switching up the play, Lynch on the audible.
Home crowd making noise, 2 receivers each side. Lynch takes the snap, drops back, throws on the slant. It is caught. Jason Little again coming through with the big catch.
That was a little bit of a risky maneuver there. You kind of had 2 incoming slant routes. You had the combination of Little and Goodfellow. Little just a little bit on the outer edge, and they were kind of relying on where were the eyes of the junior linebacker Colin Wargo going to go. He kind of opted a little bit towards Little. That's why I was kind of surprised that they opted to go there instead of Goodfellow, who had a little bit more closer to the center of the field, but it ends up working out. You got the sure hands, obviously, of Little to haul in the catch and get them the first.
They go back to the air on the other side. This is Goodfellow making the catch and staying on his feet for another first down before Wargo wraps him up at the 40-yard line. Shea Lynch and company threatening again, and it's through the air. A little bit surprising considering this Endicott team. They've won 8 in a row, and in those last 2 games against Curry and New England College, over 1,100 total yards from scrimmage, 800 of those on the ground. But here's another pass on the slant to Goodfellow, too far.
Yeah, I tell you what, I like this kind of sequence that Endicott is running right now. You ran back-to-back kind of over the middle routes, and then you immediately go to the outside sideline and kind of catch Salisbury napping. They're maybe starting to think a little bit of defending the middle of the field. Then that's when you hit them on the outside. In that instance, you kind of go for something a little bit more similar to targeting that outside again. Salisbury just this time able to kind of get in the way and break it up. But now it's going to be curious to see exactly where Endicott goes. Maybe near sideline next time. You have 2 receivers over there. Why not give it a look?
I formation. Play action. It is dropped. It was bobbled all the way by Ward. He wouldn't have gotten far anyway. Kilo Mack got the ball thinking maybe it was a fumble. But that was pretty clearly an incomplete pass. It sets up 3rd down and 10. And this is as big a play, really, as we've seen at this point in the game. Endicott with a lot of momentum right now, down 6, but driving and threatening. Rob Dispennett and the Seagull defense looking for what would be a monumentous stop.
Endicott came into this game just 45% on 3rd down, 46 of 102. They need 10 yards to try and improve that average here.
Carrera in motion. Lynch in the I formation. He hands it off. Big hole for Mateer again. Did he get it? I believe he did.
Ryan Mateer, the ball carrier, gain of 11 yards. Good for a
Yeah, that one was just a straight up run to the right side all the way, but it's understandably why you would think they'd go pass.
And now they will throw it over the middle. It is almost intercepted. That would have been Shields' second, but he covers the post route enough to break it up. Lynch was looking for the home run ball.
Hey, both of these teams are going with the same mentality of, you know, punch them a little bit over the middle, punch them a little bit on the outside sidelines, all middle to short routage situations. And then eventually you throw that post in there that goes over the middle of the field. The high safeties for both of these teams are performing exceptionally well at keeping that in the back of their mind so that they know that they have to control their zone of the defense. And then as long as they got that covered, nothing is going to go through them on the defensive end. And it's worked out pretty well for both sides so far.
And they've kept Mateer in at running back, and so no sign of either Ferreira or Bridgewater. Lynch drops straight back and heads that way. Mateer towards the left sideline. Quickness from Mateer, and he moves the chains again. Boy, Mateer just has such great burst as soon as he gets the ball.
Good for first down yardage,
and now Endicott again pushing pace.
And that's part of the reason why they relied on him so much throughout the early part of the season, at least until he understandably so lost the job to one of the best freshmen in the entire country in Brian Ferreira. And when anybody's going against that guy, it's pretty common that you'll lose the starting job, but he's still a capable back.
Mateer gets hammered here by Jason Gary. Jason Gary
on the stop for
in his senior season with Salisbury.
It's a gain of 1. That'll bring up
He's an all-NJAC honorable mention along with Patrick Shield. So the 2 honorable mentions on defense making plays. This is a Seagull defense that did not have an all-NJAC first-teamer but had a lot of second-teamers. Amir Edwards, Oliver Morgan, Jimmy Celentano, Kilo Mack, and Andrew Joya. And, of course, we mentioned Gary and Shield, the honorable mention. 2nd down and 9. 4 receivers wide. Back to the I formation as Bridgewater sits behind Lynch. They give the ball to Bridgewater. He's got a hole off left tackle. Marquise Bridgewater, touchdown, goals.
Touchdown, Endicott College. With 7:45 left to play in the
Yeah, you talked about how they took a little bit of a break from the Marquise Bridgewater show and then eventually just hands it. I saw him sub back in, and I thought, okay, now they're going to use the speed and to go to the outside. Of course, you saw him just not really showing which direction he's going to run, but he follows his blocks right there and uses the speed to kind of get past all of them. Of course, exceptional blocking to lead the way, but Bridgewater, another score.
You mentioned it, 2nd of the day for Marquise Bridgewater. Afaro trying to give his team their first lead of the day. The snap, the kick is up and through. And Endicott in the driver's seat for the first time with 7:45 to go in the third.
Yeah, now that missed PAT from a little bit earlier is coming around to rear its ugly head a little bit. Salisbury down by the slimmest of margins, 21-20, after another converted extra point from Brandon Alfaro. He's one of the most consistent kickers in the entire country, 88% overall from PAT, 50 of 57 coming into this game. It's just that they don't really put him in a situation to kick field goals, so he's kind of able to specialize on getting those point after tries and focus in on that. But yeah, now that's when special teams is going to come around to bite you, when it ends up being the break or make between these one-point contests in this case.
We don't need to harp anymore on the stakes of this game. Of course, in a tournament matchup, Endicott trying to go farther than their program has ever gone. Salisbury losing in the quarterfinals last year. The farthest this Seagull program has ever taken it in the postseason was they lost in the Stag Bowl, the championship game, back in 1986. They're hoping to get back there. It's in Canton, Ohio this year, site of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But right now, this certainly anyone's game. Otero kicks off. Here goes Belizaire on the return. Dario Belizaire belted hard at the 25. What a hit by Keenan Scullin, the sophomore defensive back out of Hermitage, Pennsylvania.
My goodness, look at the punishing blow there right on the 25-yard line by number 25. When you're on special teams and you're one of those gunners that really tries to go in and you want to try and lay the body on the returner and make them regret catching that punt or catching the kickoff in that case. But it's all about making that returner think twice about wanting to try and return any kick or punt without having to fair catch it. So great job there by Endicott special teams.
McGowan through space. Cyrus McGowan finding success on the ground once again. This certainly the biggest drive of the game so far for the Seagull offense, and probably the biggest drive of the season. It starts off strong with Cyrus McGowan blasting through the gap off left tackle.
And we're seeing this offense kind of lean more towards allowing McGowan to really operate using his legs. We've already seen him hit pay dirt already, break off for a couple of big runs throughout the first half and the first half of this quarter as well. They're going to continue to lean on their quarterback to make his number called.
And they do it again there, but that might have been a mistake. Endicott was ready. A swarm of Gulls, including Brian Daly, in to make the tackle. Jackson Adams was there as well. That'll be a loss of 2 yards.
Team up for the tackle for loss, a loss of 2. Brings up second down and 12.
What a play from Adams and Brian Daly. Second down and long. Salisbury might be forced to go through the air here soon. Adams, the sophomore, making the play on McGowan. No, they'll keep it on the ground to Walter. And he's brought down by a flock of Gulls after a 4-yard gain.
A gain of 5.
5 yards, check that.
Bring up third down and 8 for the
Third down and long. What does Ryan Fleetwood have dialed up here?
When you look at 3rd and 7, you're kind of looking for a lot of your big play guys. You're not looking for any kind of, well, I don't know. Now that you're thinking out of this Salisbury offensive mind, 7 yards is a lot more easy than a lot of other offenses would consider it to be. I still think that you maybe try and go a little bit to the outside. I don't think you pass, but I think you do try and target the outside edge.
McGowan will throw. Pocket collapsing, he'll step up and take it himself. Flag flies, McGowan dives forward, he's got the first down. Hold everything though. We've got laundry on the field. This is going to be a big call, and Salisbury doesn't like the look of it. They're headed back to the placement, and here is Scott Campbell.
Holding, offense, number 65. 10-yard penalty, repeat third down.
It's Hayden Raymond, the freshman guard, in because of an injury to Logan Smith, gets called for the holding penalty. that wipes away a first down run from Cyrus McGowan.
Yeah, and usually anytime that you see a pocket collapse like that and a quarterback getting flushed out, you can pretty much expect that somebody's holding. That's why there was so much time to where an Endicott goal couldn't really get to Cyrus before he broke off. And in that case, you mentioned it, the freshman, he got the start against Vermont State Castleton in lieu of the injury, and now getting a big spot to play on this offensive line for Salisbury, just holding on a little bit too long there trying to enforce the block.
3rd down and 17. McGowan deep down the middle, got a man open, it's Clark. Did he hold on? No, it's intercepted. No, he say it's caught. I'm seeing mixed signals here. The line judge is saying it's caught by Clark, who's still down. Endicott saying it's incomplete. It looked like the pass was intercepted by TJ Lett. This would be huge.
The result of the play is simultaneous catch. In turn, the offense, 1st and 10.
Wow.
Simultaneous catch, not a call you hear often. TJ Lett and Daniel Clark battling for it. Tie goes to the runner, as they say. And Daniel Clark's still hurt. So we're going to step away for a moment while they tend to Clark, but we got a lot to break down when we come back on ESPN+. Jeremy Carr, Mike Greco back with you at Seagull Stadium on ESPN+. Daniel Clark up and moving around. He looks to be okay, thankfully getting helped off by his fellow receivers, Isaiah Hill and J.J. Thomas. He is fired up after he made a huge catch on 3rd down and 17. That was ruled simultaneous possession. Paul McGonigal spent most of the break debating with the officials. That might have saved the Seagull season depending on how this game plays out.
Yeah, 100%, especially when we talked about Clark. That was his second real big catch that we've seen out of this game so far. And really when they needed it to, as you mentioned, a real field flipper almost there for Daniel Clark. And him being able to get up and reinvigorate his team with the emotion that we saw right there coming back from the break is just so instrumental to not only what just happened on the previous play, but also the vibe of this team as they look to try and score, tapping on the door of the red zone.
Still a little bit on the edge of Tucker Smack's range if you want to look that route. McGowan options. Belizaire turns the corner, jumps out of bounds. Dario Belizaire, another big gain on the left side. First down, Salisbury.
Well, hey, once again, that's the bread and butter of this Salisbury offense. Just give it to Belizaire and let him work to the outside edge. Because with the amount of speed that he possesses, he's able to get around the line. We've said this multiple times throughout this game. That is what Salisbury is going to lean on, the speed of their backs to be able to get around the pursuing defenders. Isaiah Hill at the top of your screen, keep in mind.
Hill joined by Richards at the bottom, so the second receiver group to go on the ground. Darrell Walter through contact. What a run. All that for 8 yards, but still impressive work. I thought he was stopped up at the line of scrimmage right there.
Yeah, but another great job by the Seagull offensive line that he credits so much about just being able to hold him off for that split second longer that he needs to just be able to get around and find that opening gap where he can just burst right on through and find additional yardage as he gets closer to the first down marker. And now this sets up a second down scenario for Salisbury where you can maybe even try to go for a pass because you still have a third down looming with 2 yards to gain.
You got the second string superback Malachi Dokes in the game. It's going to be McGowan himself. He's got the first down, takes a big shot. So inside the 5-yard line, Salisbury will have first and goal. We'll see if they stick with Dokes. Dokes more of a short yardage back, almost a specialist for the Seagull offense. And again, the second receiver group, Richards and Isaiah Hill. Bunch formation with Dokes. McGowan under center. Cyrus McGowan, touchdown! Third of the day for the quarterback. And number 2 puts number 12, Salisbury, back in front.
And again, just you have such a high percentage play ahead of you, whether you have Malachi Dokes there on the handoff or whether you have Cyrus McGowan, who we've already seen be able to take the ball himself and go in and score, especially in situations where there's really not a lot of no man's land either. It's extremely hard for a defense to try and stop it. And now look at Endicott's bench right now. They're trying to get in the head of Salisbury right now as they want to go for 2 and try and go back up.
McGowan the pitch. Fisher racing to the corner. He has got it. Mason Fisher with the speed, and the Seagulls are up 7.
And after the missed extra point a little bit earlier on in the game that ended up putting the Seagulls down by 1, it was only a matter of time before you have to start seeing them. When are you going to go for 2 and trying to get back up by 7? That is what we saw right there, and like we've talked about, the name of the game for Salisbury is speed. With the amount of speed that you have, you're able to get over to the sideline and be able to break off for those plays when a lot of other teams might not really be able to get around the edge and be able to find pay dirt. But that time when it comes down to who's going to get to that pylon first, a lot of people are going to take the Seagulls.
So what a response from the Seagull offense, and it is sparked by the post route catch from Daniel Clark. Clark up to 74 yards on the day. That last one, the big one, was for 39 on 3rd and 17. So the 39-yard catch from Daniel Clark, the difference maker on that drive.
And Mason Fisher able to find pay dirt for the first time in the air since October 18th. That was the road game against Montclair State, where he had a massive 28-yard receiving touchdown for his only catch of the day against the Red Hawks.
There's a big return coming for the Gulls. It's Bridgewater out close to the 40-yard line.
Bridgewater on the return.
Before he's taken down. Now Shea Lynch and company, who've found a rhythm here in the second half, scored touchdowns on both of their third quarter drives. Looking to keep it going.
And hey, that's more of the story that we came into this game with, right, Jeremy? I mean, you look at the return game for Endicott. They came in as the #1 overall team in average kickoff return, sitting at around 34.8 return yards per return on kickoff. So that's where you want to see your drive start, is through special teams, because that sets you up, in this case, only 10 yards away from midfield. So it's putting you in good field position for your offense to start setting up shop and potentially drive down to score.
Ferreira off right tackle, decent gain to start. Wrapped up by Celentano. Ryan Salvosa in there as well. And maybe a bit surprisingly, we haven't seen a lot of inside rushes from this Endicott offense. They go horizontal a lot, which almost neutralizes the game of Oliver Morgan. He's been the standout nose tackle for this Seagull team, but only a gain of 3 there. So, again, the Gulls in hurry up. 2nd down and 7. Lynch low snap. He corrals it and throws quick to the outside. Almost picked off on the late throw by Joya, but Goodfellow does make the catch. His 6th reception of the game that leads all receivers. Second was Jason Little with 5. Daniel Clark, the only Salisbury receiver with a catch. 3rd down and 2 with 90 seconds to go in the 3rd quarter. Lynch getting instructions from Paul McGonigal, who's also the play caller for this Endicott offense. The Seagull bench hyping up the home crowd. Lynch back with time. Now rolls right, now throws. It is broken up. Kilo Mack says no thank you. Brings up 4th down.
You had a good look at Brian Ferreira there at the bottom left of your screen. I almost want the pass to go there because you throw into an area where there's 3 Seagulls in pursuit rather than going to the newcomer of the year in the Conference of New England and also just a overall 2nd team rushing threat. I don't know why you opt to go over the middle there instead of trying to fling it out to the outside, especially in regards to how many numbers were there in the general area.
So with 1:04 remaining in the 3rd, Endicott will punt. Stones boots it. Takes a bounce at the 15. Here goes Fisher. He lost the ball. Mason Fisher got stripped. Oh, my goodness. The Endicott special teams. They take it away from Mason Fisher. And coming up with the ball is Gio Alvarez Lopez, the freshman receiver. Wow, what a play.
And on a team that has been so instrumental in terms of the fumbles that they can force. They're one of the top 10 teams in fumbles recovered, sitting at around 11 total loose balls that they were able to scoop up. That time on the special teams area. We've talked about it all throughout the season. And
on the receiving team, recovered by the kicking team. After the play, sideline warning against Endicott. That is their first warning of the game.
All right, well, that's just a formality. I think that anybody on Endicott's sideline will take that warning because of the circumstances of what just happened. You get stopped on an offensive try when you're down by 7, and now you get the ball right on back in red zone territory where one of your key factors of offense is your red zone production.
Mason Fisher got stripped, and now Shea Lynch and company a chance to capitalize. Ferreira back in the backfield. 53 seconds to go in the quarter. Lynch in the shotgun as he has been all day. Hands to Ferreira. Gap closes quickly between Colin Wargo and Sherman Hatton. Clock is running. Substitution coming on. This is just the quarter break, so Endicott understandably not moving with an insane amount of urgency. 22 seconds. They will have to snap the ball on account of the play clock. About a 1 second difference there. Lynch drops back. Salisbury brings pressure into the end zone. Caught. Touchdown, Jacob Ward.
Yeah, you saw that one on the way. It almost looked like Endicott had a man-on-man for every single one of their receivers. They sat up 2 on the either side, and then your inside one on the right, and Ward just ran a little bit of a slant route. And that's something that's going to kind of dice up the Salisbury defense, is running those slants because of the vacancy in the middle of the field that we've talked about. Outside of your deep guys, you kind of leave that vacancy open in the middle, and that is what allows those slant routes to be so operational.
PAT is good. Jacob Ward was the leading receiver on this Gulls offense throughout the year that didn't throw the ball a whole lot. He finished the regular season with 29 catches, 421 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Made all CNE first team, but had really been overshadowed today by both Adam Goodfellow and Jason Little. But he makes a play when they need him most. we're tied up once again with under 10 remaining in the third.
And we've talked about it, how just being able to go against the space that is provided against this Salisbury defense and by the defensive backs, you see just kind of staring them down the entire way was Lynch on Ward. And again, all Ward had to do was be quick with his feet, have a quick in route, and then that was all cash money from after that. You had a wide zone open in the middle, and that's what Endicott's kind of targeted all throughout the game, and it works in pay dirt situations too.
Alfaro out to kick off.
Alfaro set to kick off. Correction, it's still set to kick off.
I'm still trying to figure out exactly what this whole maneuver is that they do. Maybe it's to psych out the special teams. They've done that on every single kickoff that they've done.
And Salisbury's been ready for it, so it's, I'm sure, something they've done all season that Salisbury saw on film.
Now, I do want to see if they end up making something out of that and do end up doing a squib kick situation. That would certainly be fun.
Belizaire fields the kickoff. Out of bounds at the 30, where he's thrown down. 2.8 seconds left in the quarter. Time for one play. Likely be a run as the Seagull offense comes on. Endicott now 3 of 4 on second half drives, but helped tremendously by the fumble recovery on the punt that came following the one unsuccessful drive.
First and 10 Seagulls at the 31-yard line.
Salisbury back in their traditional formation with their regular personnel. Endicott in cover 2. The reverse handoff. Belizaire. Couple of nice steps. Decent gain of about 8, and that's how the third quarter, will end. Would you expect anything else? Playoff football, we're heading to the final 15 minutes tied. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. Fourth quarter coming up on ESPN+.
NCAA championships in more than 800 sites across the country each year. Share the experience and excitement of another NCAA championship coming to a city near you.
Welcome back, everyone, to Seagull Stadium for NCAA Division III football on ESPN+. There's our crew right there. You see Mike and I on the inside of the windows. You see Carter Bradley and Sean McChrystal, our 2 camera operators, doing a fantastic job. And a thank you to AJ Polcari at the field level for giving us that great shot.
And of course, got to credit our replay officials and back here as well, Isaiah Negron and Aaron Figge. And of course, our main man director, Andrew Barbieri, doing a great job putting together this broadcast so far as we make our way towards the final quarter of it.
Back to the field of play. Big hole, Walter. Darrell Walter at midfield, lowering his shoulder and running with a head of steam. Darrell Walter moves the chains.
Yeah, kind of starting out this quarter just as they ended the third, right, Jeremy? I mean, you just run it up the gut with a serviceable back who has done so much for you so well throughout the rest of the season. First it was Belizaire to end out the third, and now it's Walter to start out the fourth. Kind of the story of the season in terms of rushing for Salisbury is those two guys right there.
We'll see if he gets the ball again here. Now McGowan's going to throw. Deep drop down the right sideline. Brubaker underthrown, deflected, and incomplete. Broken up by Davis again, who was shadowing Brubaker the whole way.
Man, oh man, they really tried to continue to target those outside defensive backs. And this time it was Brubaker. First we've seen them try and target Daniel Clark a little bit. Then we've seen a little bit of an implement of Mason Fisher a little bit as well. When you look at Micah Brubaker, he's that deep strike guy that you send on streak routes towards the near side, and you just send him down and see what he can do against one-on-one coverage there. Except this time, Endicott was able to come to play.
Second down and 10. They go back to Walter. Walter, the bulldozer, for about 4.
I like that word that you used, Jeremy, bulldozer. Just that's what you would use to identify a lot of the offensive rush weapons that you see out of Salisbury. Just big frames that you're able to push forward towards another fairly sizable line that's able to fight for those dirty yardages and through a rumble and a cloud of dust, as they say.
Got an injured player for Salisbury. I couldn't see quite who it was. But teams now converging. We'll step away again while this is handled. You hear the clock correction. That'll be what the clock starts at when we come back on ESPN+. Back here at Seagull Stadium, the Salisbury right tackle Andre Robinson being helped off the field. Not the first time he's dealt with injuries this year, so we'll see if Nolan Farley comes on, how Sherman Wood rearranges his offensive line. Lucas Sacamano has already come in for Hayden Raymond, who had a couple penalties. But Robinson helped off. 3rd down and 6. You got to think at this point in the game, kind of in no man's land on the field, this might be 4-down territory. McGowan calls his own number, drives through contact. Cyrus McGowan. You want to talk about heart from your leader. Cyrus McGowan bouncing off tackles, moves the chains.
Yeah, and there you go. Cyrus is not one to steer away from contact. Woo! Almost got contacted with by one of his backs there next to him, but just able to burst through that first contact and not brought down. That's part of that big frame that he has to work with going through, standing at 6'3", 230. And that can kind of work in your favor a little bit when you got to go one-on-one. Push comes to shove, you got it.
Well, here he goes again. This time he's corralled by Joe Terrell, who has been ready all game.
I've heard a bunch of people describe Cyrus as kind of an 18-wheeler barreling down Route 13 when you think of the amount of force that he has to operate with and punch through that line and any potential first contact that he has. He just has that power through the lower body and also the stature on the upper body to just power through it and break through that first contact. That's why it's so difficult to keep him down on the first try.
McGowan the option. Fisher to the 30. Tangling with Terrell for the ball. Joe Terrell thinks he came up with it. Now Mason Fisher is down. And the SU training staff back to work.
The training staffs of both of these programs having to do a little bit of work. So shout out to Mary Tavornik and her crew on the Salisbury side, and then on the Endicott side, Shelby Barton and Madison Begin. They've done a great job at keeping these players in good health and good standing, as it looks like the Salisbury player will be okay. But altogether, obviously you want to see everybody playing at their best and getting back in the game as soon as possible. We've seen a couple of exits that have turned back into re-entries into the game, so that's always good to see. Heavy credit to the athletic training staffs of both sides.
3rd down and 4. Even more in no man's land now. 2 receivers to the left. This is probably 4-down territory. McGowan is not going to let it get that far again. Boy, Cyrus McGowan, he's got to have the trust of the whole world right now.
I'm telling you, you just hand him the ball, he's going to keep on pushing forward. And that's both a testament to the offensive line and also to his just you look at how Cyrus was holding the ball right there. He was holding it 2 hands, not willing to let anything get punched out. And that was something that we talked to Coach Wood about. Fumbles were the main key contributor to Salisbury's lone loss on the season against arch rival CNU. When you're going against a run-heavy defense or a run defense-heavy team, you have to hold on to the football.
Now McGowan will throw. He's got a man open. It's Belizaire. Touchdown! We've been waiting for the passing game to get going all day. Belizaire was there. McGowan hit him in stride. Salisbury back in front.
And you see the vibes of Salisbury right there. That's a critical touchdown, and they go to their critical playmaker to find it. A little bit of a one-on-one step there. And, of course, when you're going one-on-one, you're going to rely on Dario Belizaire to be the one who answers the call. He does right there, and we'll see if Salisbury can try and go up by 7 this time around.
Before that pass, Cyrus McGowan was 3 of 9 through the air with an interception. Tucker Smack nails the PAT. 11 minutes and 16 seconds left in this game. And what was kind of a defensive slugfest in the first half has turned into an offensive shootout in the second.
Yeah, watch this play right here. You see the early motion that sets Belizaire in there, and then it just kind of gets it all straight from there. You had a little bit of a wheel route concept that just set him wide open, free one-on-one on the near sideline. Then you target that. More often than not, Belizaire is going to come down with it when it's pretty free money like that, just being able, you against the defensive back. And that's why they rely on Belizaire so much, because he has that one-on-one capability to come away with it in basically any matchup that they put him in.
A 9-play, 69-yard drive for the Seagulls to begin the fourth quarter. So it takes close to 5 minutes, for the Seagulls to put themselves back in front. A low-lining kick that bounces into the end zone for a touchback. Defense back to work for Salisbury. This high-powered Endicott offense has come to life in the second half. Again, 3 of 4 in terms of scoring drives, and all 3 touchdowns. Now they're in position where they pretty much have to keep it going, down by 7 with 11 minutes to go.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Endicott being catapulted right now by their third quarter performance. 21 of their 28 total points have come in the third frame. Meanwhile, Salisbury, they're a little bit more spread out. The most points that they got were 13 in the first to go up 13-0 after the first quarter break. And now for Endicott, they've pulled themselves within a 1-score game, so that's something to talk about. They got to try and score here to bring it back.
Lynch on the rollout, nothing there. He has to throw it away. Pursued hard by Abdul Atara. A correction, that was Marquise Thomas off the edge. That ran down Lynch. Makes it second down.
All right, you bring Ferrara in. Let's see if they end up going to him. And in this situation, you're facing 2nd and 10. I'm not sure that you want to try and make it 3rd and manageable above all else, in case you do have to maybe try and set something up to go and start passing. And they will hand it.
Yeah, they go on the ground to Ferreira. Nifty moves, but Patrick Scheel again takes him down. Boy, Patrick Scheel has had a heck of a game out of that safety spot.
Yeah, you talk about a pick already on the day, almost the second one a little bit earlier on in the contest. He's been able to fly around really in a game where you knew that you were going to be going up against a little bit more of a pass-heavy attack than maybe you were expecting to, especially looking at how their offensive production has been made through the running game. And Shield has been able to step up when he has to and has been able to defend that middle of the field very well. Late substitution for Salisbury on the defensive end.
Yeah, Micah Glover comes on at the linebacker spot. Lynch back, the quick throw, the completion to Jacob Ward, first down. Shea Lynch threads the needle, and Jacob Ward comes up with another big catch.
How about that? The reliable hands of the CNE first teamer. They just able to fit that. That was also a nice, very nice throw. You had two Seagulls in the general area.
Lynch keeps it himself, bounces outside trying to get around Contosis, and gets an extra step of first down. Shea Lynch on the play fake. That fooled everyone. And again, Endicott going with tempo. The Salisbury defense substitutes a lot, especially on the defensive line. The hurry-up offense kind of preventing them from doing that a little bit. Bridgewater makes a move up the middle. Marquise Bridgewater, the 20, the 15, the 10, down to the 5. What a run from Bridgewater. Brought down at the last moment by Andrew Joya. And here come the Gulls inside the 5.
Watch this right here. Patrick Shield was the last little line of defense right there. That's where we were talking about open field tackling and why it was so important.
Lynch on the fade. It is incomplete. He's looking for Adam Goodfellow. Goodfellow caught the ball but could not get his feet down.
In that case, if you're the defensive back, that's all that you can do. You know that the ball is going to be coming your way. You just got to try and restrict the amount of free space there and force your receiver out of bounds. Nice job by the sophomore and Taj Contosis.
2nd down and 4. Carrera in motion. Lynch calling for it, takes a snap, hands to Ferreira. Down to the 2. Chase Lomax, the veteran defensive end, keeps him out of the end zone. 3rd down coming up, and you have to imagine, Mike, this close to the goal line, this would almost certainly be 4-down territory at this point in the game.
100%. I think this is run territory all the same. On that last play, it was man coverage, and they were kind of trying to suss that out through sending a pre-snap motion, and then they were able to see that. And now it looks like they'll have trips on the right. I still think that actually maybe you run it. Salisbury stacking the box right now out in front of the defensive line. I think
Lynch on the keeper. Oh, that's close. He is spotted down at the 1 from his position where he finished. The ball was over the goal line, but the officials say he was down short. 4th and inches. Some confusion on both sides. A big play here. 8 minutes to go in the game. 35-28 Salisbury. 4th down and inches. They hand off. They got him. Mateer is wrapped up by Jimmy Celentano. Who else? The veteran when his team needed it most.
That's the downside about running a fast tempo offense. You see the confusion right there. I'm not really sure it was a low snap regardless, but Salisbury had 4 guys right there. You see centered around Mateer and Celentano. He's been in and around this program for so long. It's only fitting that he's the one that ends up sending Endicott right back to where they were. And now, in this instance, you have to play smart if you're Salisbury's offense. You're down within your own 5. You cannot afford to give the ball up. You have to run it through.
A goal line stand, and Darrell Walter, speaking of stands, he gets stood up at the line of scrimmage. No gain on 1st down.
Remember, Salisbury has had an instance, as looks like we'll see another kind of look at the Lynch attempt.
Ooh. That looked a lot closer than what we saw from up here, Mike.
Yeah, we got a little bit better of a look at it after some time. Obviously, it doesn't really matter now, but certainly something to keep in mind as Salisbury works within their own end. But that was kind of what I thought when I saw it. I saw Lynch's hand initially go up and stick the arm out. But obviously, you know, after everybody starts clobbering all together, you don't really know exactly where the ball is. But based on where, Jeremy, I think you mentioned it in the middle of the call, based on where his body was, it almost looked believable that, you know, the ball potentially crossed.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, what led to a lot of confusion there on afterwards from both sides, is because they kind of similar from a play earlier on. They didn't really know what the call was, so they had to still run on fast-paced motion.
McGowan back to throw into the sun. Finds Brubaker. No, it was high. He had him open past the line to gain, and after all that, Salisbury's going to have to punt. McGowan got hit at the end of that as well, but we see the sun probably in his eyes. So this will be Noah Christensen on to punt, back by his own end line, excuse me. Under 7 minutes remaining. It'll be the Seagull defense once again. The Endicott offense looking to redeem themselves. Christensen's punt, not the greatest, but it takes a friendly bounce. Fielded at the 45 by Goodfellow. He's hit hard. Big play by Sullenberger. Check that, Tyler Ohlmeyer. Right after Goodfellow fielded the ball.
Hey, I tell you what, Christensen has done an excellent job punting so far. Averages around 45 yards per punt, 135 overall on 3 total kicks. And he's done a great job at getting them out of dangerous situations. Of course, that one took a little bit of a positive bounce after the initial contact with the turf. And then obviously a great job by the Gunners on this kicking team, or the kicking side of the special teams unit, to go up there and pursue right on first touch.
Bridgewater flag flies. Thrown by the umpire.
Bridgewater on the carry, flag on the play.
Again, that's Philip Nichols. So we'll hear from Scott Campbell. This might be on Salisbury. This might be early motion on the defensive line. Here's Mr. Campbell.
Personal foul. Hands to the face against the defense, number 91. 15 yards from the end of the run. Automatic first down.
Sherman Hatton, a 15-yard personal foul for hands to the face. Hatton had been a starter on the defensive line most of the season, did not start today.
Second time that we're kind of seeing that penalty, at least to my memory, and both of them coming in crucial spots. And it's so important to keep your hands low. You want to try and get up high underneath so that you have that leverage to push back, but you got to watch where your hands are, especially when it can result in a personal foul.
Lynch throwing for Goodfellow, too high and out of bounds. Andrew Joya was there to contest, but the pass was uncatchable, and another flag flies. This is going to be holding on Endicott. We saw Scott Campbell make the signal, and the Gulls moving back.
The result of the play is an incomplete pass. During the pass, holding, offense, number 78, 10-yard penalty, repeat first down.
So called for the hold is the right guard, Joe Palumbo, senior. Sherman Wood elects to take the penalty, so it'll be first down and 20 instead of second down and 10. Palumbo coming to Endicott by way of Rockaway Beach, New York. Part of this offensive line that allowed only 3 sacks all year. Lynch into the flat for Bridgewater. Not much. Gets about 3. And it looks like Sherman Wood's decision to accept the holding penalty, at least at the moment, the correct one.
Yeah, I think when you're tasked with the decision of whether you go and push them back 10 yards and then re-give them the first down, or you just go with the result of the play on 2nd and 10, I think it puts you in a more optimal situation to go 1st and 20, especially with what you've seen out of this offense so far, where they really need to try and string some things together. I think obviously it's positive either way, but I think 1st and 20 just sounds a little bit better.
Bridgewater continues to keep the legs churning. Gets an extra couple yards, but again, the Seagulls flock Abdul Atara and Chase Lomax, the 2 defensive linemen, in there to make the stop. See Alfaro getting some practice in. This is maybe in Brandon Aubrey's range. I don't know if it's in Brandon Alfaro Mateo's range.
And again, he's only kicked 4 total field goals this year, and he's only hit 3 of them. So I think you're still looking to try and get it within the red zone here. Obviously, but you know.
3rd down and 16. High snap. Lynch gets a hold of it. Just a 3-man rush. He throws one over the middle. It is broken up. Andrew Joya shadowed Adam Goodfellow. 4th down.
And that's about what you're looking for. You're looking to try and get to around the 25 on a little crossing pass. I like that route out of Endicott. It's worked for you so far. And Lynch, you just try and tag it a little bit underneath. I would have maybe liked that route to be a little bit shy and just have, you know, maybe 2 or 3 yards forward so that you can get a little bit of space in between him and Andrew Joya, who obviously came in to break up the play. But, you know, sometimes when you're drawing up the route, you say, okay, get to the 25, then break in. You want to try and make the catch at the 25. I think around the 28 or 29, it might have been able to get a little bit more space there on the receiving end.
Thomas lets the punt go into the end zone. It'll be a touchback for Salisbury, despite the best efforts of Keenan Scullin, who we've seen a couple times today. 4 minutes and 50 seconds. That's all that separates Salisbury from a trip to the next round, which is looking more and more likely to be played at Homewood Field in Baltimore. Actually, correct that, certainly will. Johns Hopkins a 34-14 win over Springfield to advance to the next round. Elsewhere, Susquehanna is about to beat Christopher Newport.
How about that?
McGowan gives to Walter on a little bit of misdirection. 6 yards more for the tank that is Darrell Walter.
So how about that? You see Susquehanna kind of avenging their loss earlier on in the regular season against CNU. Should all things remain the same, obviously they currently lead the captains in that matchup that could very much have an impact on either of these two teams. Whoever comes out of this one, they are on the other side of the quarter, which means that they would potentially have to go against that team to get to the semifinal round and the Final Four. So it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye out on. But, you know, a lot of upsets potentially brewing in Division III, as we've talked about earlier on in the game.
Walter stumbles forward, but he's got enough. Yeah, CNU was the only team to beat Salisbury in the regular season. Came after an 8-0 start.
And Eastern also up 4 over Franklin and Marshall, 28-24 around 2 minutes to go, which also is a massive game here for this quarter. A lot of shocking teams. Eastern only in its 3rd year as a football program, making their first ever national tournament appearance and potentially sending home number 9 Franklin and Marshall.
Yeah, they're 2 minutes away from the 3rd round. How about that? One of these teams is 3.5 minutes away. Which one that is remains to be seen. It'll be determined heavily by this drive. Belizaire on the pitch, off left tackle, getting great blocking from Irving. Dario Belizaire following his senior lineman. That was Chris Clark, the all NJAC center that was out there as well. 9-yard gain.
Yeah, in this instance, you got to put the ball in the hands of Belizaire. I would not be surprised if Salisbury tries to just either continue to run out this clock. Keep in mind, both teams do have 3 timeouts still to each of their names. So there is still a whole bunch of time stoppages remaining as Fisher checks in pretty late out for Belizaire. So no more Belizaire. You got to maybe put the ball in the hands of some of your other playmakers. You saw Fisher go out there. You also have J.J. Thomas out there as well.
You have the 2-minute timeout. Another factor to keep an eye on. They go back to the ground. It's Walter. Darrell Walter keeps the Pistons pumping. It's another first down, and now you have to wonder when Paul McGonigal is going to start to use those timeouts. Salisbury looks to run out this clock.
Yeah, it looks like there is just enough time for the Seagulls to run this out until the 2-minute timeout, and they do. Or, no, Endicott calls a timeout to prevent that from happening.
27 seconds to go until that stoppage. So if you include the stoppage, there was a timeout called after a first down. If you include the stoppage, they can get 3 consecutive stops.
30 seconds. Thank you.
Run that now 2:30 instead. We'll see if they reset the play clock. That's sitting at 25 right now, so Salisbury would have to run an additional play. But, yeah, overall just a game that has been ultimately decided by who is the best team on the ground, because a lot of times that is where the fatigue factor starts to come in, right? I mean, you look at Salisbury in terms of rushing offense and rushing attack. They've got 348 overall rushing yards against Endicott's 194. Despite Endicott coming into this contest with an elite rushing offense, at least in all things considered, 486 overall offensive yardage per game, and they're kind of sitting around somewhere similar, but still, you were expecting a whole lot more if you're Endicott.
Well, that's a big play right there. Darrell Walter rumbles forward. He's the third Seagull to break the century mark on the ground, joining Belizaire and McGowan. And now that changes things. And Salisbury looks to be in prime position to continue to tick this clock down.
And this is where it starts to be so imperative about your ability to.
Please reset the game clock to 2 minutes, 19 seconds. Thank you.
As they add another 5, but either way, when you have a dominant rushing attack like Salisbury does, or even Endicott does, that controls your ability to determine how these final 2 or so minutes of the ball game check out, because you're able to control the ball and possess the ball and kind of enforce your will, really, on the opposing defensive line because of your offensive line's capability to hold them off and to continue pushing that drive forward.
Have to imagine Darrell Walter will continue to shoulder the load here for the duration of this drive. Getting the looming specter right now, the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays awaiting the winner of this game. Salisbury trying to make sure that it's them taking the trip to Homewood Field. Walter, nothing doing there. Ball came out. Endicott initially thought they came away with what would be a huge fumble recovery, but it was whistled dead for forward progress. Danny Fleming came up with the ball, and Paul McGonigal used his final timeout. So if we do a little math here, Mike, another stoppage after this play, Endicott wouldn't have a timeout left, but it would take us to the 2-minute timeout. So you would assume third down and let's say 9 on the other side of the 2-minute timeout. They get another stop there, a play that takes about 5 seconds, and then the 40-second play clock. Endicott a chance to get the ball back with maybe a minute and change left.
No matter how the calculations run, a lot of Endicott fans would say that might not be enough time to be comfortable. So this is an instance where if you're Salisbury, you're in a pretty comfortable position, especially with your dominance of the run game that we've talked about multiple times throughout this broadcast. You got to be able to take advantage of that. And for Endicott, you just got to try your best. You got to try and stop them as quickly as you can. Don't let them get anything out towards the outside edge. If they're working their way towards the sideline, push them back in towards the center. You can't allow the opposite. If they're trying to work towards the center, push them over towards the sideline so that you can stop the clock.
The handoff, Walter wrapped up right away. That'll take us down to the 2-minute timeout. Endicott 1 stop away from getting the ball back as that brings up third down and 8. Hit 2 minutes.
This is the 2-minute timeout.
Another big factor here is that it's a touchdown difference rather than a field goal difference, so Endicott would need to go the duration of the field.
That's right, and that always kind of sours things up when you're looking at the score and you see 7. You know that you have to drive the entire length of the field, as you mentioned, and you know you're in a situation where you do have a high-powered offense. Like, don't get what I'm not saying, but when you're facing less than a minute and a half potentially to go, it's starting to look a little bit bleak unless obviously your offense can work efficiently and get those extreme chunk yardages. It has been done. We have seen Endicott be able to target the sideline and be able to hit those quick out route passes all towards the sideline to stop the clock. That's what we saw towards the end of the first half, where Endicott was able to really kind of utilize the clock to their advantage and try and make something happen before the end of the clock's expiry.
Endicott coaches talking with their teams. Ryan Fleetwood, the offensive coordinator, huddled up with his Seagull group. And you can't throw the ball here if you're Salisbury because you don't want to risk an incompletion, but
3rd down and 8 for the Seagulls.
so that they're kind of handcuffed in that Endicott's expecting the run. We'll see how it plays out on 3rd down and 8. Uh-oh. That's the last thing Salisbury needed, a false start. So the clock will reset, I think maybe by a second or so, but it'll move the Seagulls back 5.
Prior to snap, false start, number 63 on the offense. 5-yard penalty, still 3rd down.
Probably the last player you'd expect on the offensive line to get hit with the false start. Brian Irving, the senior, all-conference left tackle, who came on in the playoffs last year following the injury to Trey Price, who's now on the Seagull coaching staff, and did well enough to earn a regular spot on the offensive line, and he's protected Cyrus McGowan's blindside all year. Gets hit with the early motion there. 3rd down and 15. McGowan, he's going to lose even more. Caleb Lujan, Joe Terrell team up to bring down Cyrus McGowan. And now the Seagull punt team will come on,
Bring up 4th down
presumably.
and 15 for the Seagulls. At the Endicott College 46.
The offense remains on the field right now.
I imagine they'll likely run out these final 20 or so seconds of the play clock, so that way you can waste even more time and maybe have to wait until you call your timeout with around 1:10 remaining, as you have 12 seconds on the play clock and around 22 on the, or 1:22 I should say, on the game clock. So just, again, whittling down the time as much as you can. As a quick final score update, Eastern officially upsetting Franklin and Marshall by a real official final score of the one that we talked about a little bit earlier in 28-24. So now Eastern will go on and take Susquehanna in a massive 3rd round matchup.
Did you have that pick when you filled out your bracket?
If you're a Salisbury fan, I think you definitely want to see that matchup, because that's the best option that you have to hosting a third or a quarterfinal game, I should say, because you're higher than both of those teams in the NPI going into this entire quarter of the bracket, at least. When we talked to Coach Wood, he says, I think that we have the possibility of being the #1 team in this entire bracket. I don't care about CNU's rankings. I don't care about Hopkins. I don't care about F&M. I don't care about any of that. Salisbury sees themselves as the team to beat in this quarter, and they said we might not ever see a bracket like this again, in terms of not only the teams that you have to face with North Central and Mount Union being on the other side of the bracket on the left side, but also in terms of the location. You got Susquehanna up in Selins Grove, Pennsylvania. You got CNU down in Newport News, Eastern up in Pennsylvania as well, and it's all here. And then when you talk about the next game that they potentially play, if they can hold on to this score, Baltimore is in Baltimore. So you don't really have to travel all that far. You're staying in the state for the potential next game. So they might never see this bracket again. They have to capitalize on it.
Big punt here from Noah Christensen. With 72 seconds left, no timeouts, Endicott's going to get the ball back. Ken Christensen pinned them back deep. Fair caught by Goodfellow at the 15, so Christensen does his job. And now it's up to Rob Disbennett's unit, the Seagull defense. They had a goal line stand earlier in the quarter, and they are one stop away from punching the ticket to Homewood Field.
And I tell you what, Jeremy, it might not be talked about a lot. Noah Christensen has done an excellent job in terms of the field position. He's only had to punt a couple of times, but when he has, he averages around 40-plus yards. That one a little bit less, knocks his average down from 45 to 41, but still, as you mentioned, this is critical field position. You put Endicott within their own 10 almost, and this is a situation where Endicott has to go the whole length of the field, as we've talked about.
Lynch back in the pocket, stepping up, throwing over the middle. It is caught. First down by Ward. Clock is running.
Keeps them in bounds. That's important for the Salisbury defense. Keep them within the hashes.
Endicott's been running hurry up this entire second half, so Seagull defense probably no stranger to it at the moment, down to 50 seconds. Lynch back to throw again. Rainbow's one down the far sideline, too far out of bounds. That will stop the clock. Jacob Ward might have lost that one in the sun a little bit.
Yeah, this is going to be that instance where you're in a not optimal part of the country, I guess, because you have the sun right over there, and that's where your receivers are going to be looking at, almost kind of like AT&T Stadium in Dallas, where you have the sun right there shining in. So it's going to be tough on these receivers. That's why you maybe want to go towards the near sideline over in this way.
Lynch back again. Pressure coming. He's brought down. A big sack by Jason Gary. Clock is running. Jason Gary, all-conference honorable mention, has played 3 different positions in his time at SU. Now down to 30 seconds. 3rd down and long. That's big. Pressure coming. They'll throw. Flare screen wrapped up right away. This time it's Colin Wargo. Under 20 seconds. The Gulls have got to hurry. It'll be 4th down and long. 15. They've got time for maybe one play, and it's got to be towards the sideline. 10 seconds. Now you might have to consider the lateral. 8 seconds. 7. Lynch back. Throws one over the middle. Incomplete. And this baby is over. 3 seconds to go, and the Seagulls are headed to the next round.
Wow, wow, wow. There were multiple times there where almost on the second to last play, I thought, just drop it. Drop the ball, because that's going to force the incomplete pass, and then you could potentially stop the clock there. But what a great job by the defensive front. You see Jason Gary right there on the initial sack, and then Salisbury had to recollect their defense. They only rushed 3 on the very next play, but they still got to Lynch in the backfield. So this is where, as a team, you have to be mentally composed, because in that instance where you got to start thinking on your feet, Salisbury showed that they got it.
Victory formation now for Cyrus McGowan. And there it is. The Seagull season lives on. Sherman Wood and his Seagulls will take on the Blue Jays of Johns Hopkins next Saturday. And on the other side, for Paul McGonigal and the Gulls, another successful season, a trip to the 2nd round, a conference title, 9-1 record. They continue to be eluded by a postseason success.
Well, I tell you what, I think the people of Beverly have nothing but pride for this Endicott football team, especially when you look at the progression that this team has had. They played against Cortland last year. The Red Dragons are the Red Dragons. We know that they were a year removed from a national championship against North Central in that instance. So you're going against no slouches in the national tournament. You go Cortland last year, you go Salisbury this year. It's all about building up that culture of success in your program. I think that's exactly what Paul McGonigal and the rest of this Endicott staff has done, and both with the traditions that they have and the number 0 being passed down from leader to leader and every other thing that you can think of, I think Endicott is doing everything correctly, and I think they are certainly going to be a team to look out for in the coming years, especially when you think of how they've progressed in terms of scattering top 25 rankings all throughout the last couple of years since 2022, getting to their highest rank of number 15 overall in the National Power Index by the NCAA this year. And they just so happen to run into another juggernaut in number 13, Salisbury, in this case. But I think there's a bright future ahead for Endicott, and I think they have a lot to build on in this season as they go forward and try and make additional NCAA tournament pushes all throughout the rest of these next couple of years.
So we will wrap it up here, but Salisbury gets the win 35-28, and it was quite an exciting matchup. We are glad we got to watch it here with you. We want to give a special shout out to our whole crew, our camera operators, Carter Bradley, Sean McChrystal, and of course, AJ Polcari at field level. Our replay technician, Aaron Fagey, our TriCaster operator, Isaiah Negron, and of course, Mike, you mentioned him, our director, Andrew Barbieri, for allowing us to bring this all to you. For my partner, Mike Greco, and all of us here with ESPN Plus, this is Jeremy Carr saying thank you for tuning in. I hope you had a great time. I know we did. This has been quite an exciting game and quite an exciting start to the postseason. Salisbury beats Endicott 35-28. This has been NCAA Division III football on ESPN Plus.